live. For those of you who habitually wonder what kind of single malt I'm going to be drinking today, there's an open safe behind me with a bunch of guns, so there will not be alcohol here. I'm not that much of a redneck, so there's going to be tea. That's the best I can do for you guys. Despite the fact that we're just 2 days past the election, the main topic of the conversation for right now is not going to be the election, although I'm curious but what my guest thinks about this. I'm going to ask him. The main topic of the conversation is going to be about Gideon Optics. I had a chance to look at a couple of different weapon sites from Gideon Optics over the last few months, and I was pleasantly surprised that I like them. But in the grand scheme of things, I shouldn't be surprised, because while Gideon Optics is a new brand, the face and the name behind it is not that new to me. It's Mike Branson, who I've known for a good amount of time. So I shouldn't really be that surprised. Mike is joining me today. He'll tell us a little bit about the origin of the company and what they're looking to do, maybe what they're planning to do in the future. That's up to him. But we'll start with some general introduction, and maybe I'll pick his brain about politics. He's a recovering lawyer, so I need every opportunity to make fun of him. All right, Mike, welcome to the Dark Lord of Optics Live.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Hey, Elliot, it's good to see you.
Likewise, it's good to see your face. I'm going to see a smiley face quite possibly during SHOT Show. But
Yes.
For now, I'll take video. Funny thing, Mike is in Texas. I was in Texas 3 hours ago. I just got off the plane. But Texas is a large state. Mike is near Houston, and I was in Dallas. And tomorrow I'm going to get in the car and drive to yet another part of Texas that is closer to me than to where I was and to where Mike is. I'm going to go try to shoot a pig this weekend. And to those of you who are wondering about this, yes, I'm very, very Jewish, but my religious, ethical, philosophical considerations all stop before I get to the dinner table. So. All right. With that ado, okay, it looks like Jared is here. Another live chat. Correct. So as far as YouTube goes and all this video stuff, I really like doing live streams. To my great consternation, more people watch my videos than live streams, but I really enjoy the interaction on live stream. Is what I kind of my preferred medium, if you wish. Hopefully, it's going to take off a little more than it has. People are beginning to join. So before I let Mike introduce himself to those of you who don't know him, and don't know the company, election 2 days ago. I want your thoughts. You and I have had some lovely and lively discussions on politics in the past.
Yeah. So I'm personally pleased. I'll just put that out there. I'm pleased. I'm surprised. I think if anybody says they knew it was going to be like this, they're probably lying, because I have a friend who is a political operative, a Republican sort of employee, as you might say. And I talked to them before the election, and I said, between you and me, what do you really think? And that person said, it's going to run through Georgia. And like, if Trump doesn't take Georgia, like, it's all over but the lawsuits, And this was 12 hours before voting started. It was the night before, And so even that person, who's very much on the inside and has been working the campaign for months, didn't really have a clue that it was going to turn out this way. So I posted on my personal Facebook, not the company Facebook. We try to keep the company mostly out of politics if we can, but I posted on my personal
sorry,
Facebook.
It's my live stream. I get to choose.
Yeah, right. But I said, be kind. If you're on the winning side today, be kind to the people who who went to the other side and who are feeling crushed, and they're feeling down, and they're worried and they're concerned, because we didn't know how it was going to be. We could have this podcast tonight, and you and I are sweating out another 4 years of, oh man, what are they going to do to, they're going to come for our guns, and they're going to do this, and they're going to do that. It's all going to be so expensive. And we didn't know, that it was going to be like that. So be a graceful winner. Don't be a sore winner. There's certainly a lot of sore losers out there right now. Don't be the other side of that. Um, so yeah, I really hope that Team Red does some very good things with the mandate they've got a big mandate. They've got I don't know if they have the House yet, but they got the presidency, they got the Senate,
Well,
they've got
they have the house.
I knew that was leaning that way, but
Yeah, it's
like
pretty much.
you
Unless
guys,
they find some votes somewhere, they have the house.
yeah. So now they need to decide what they're going to do with that, and I hope they choose wisely. I hope they choose to spend that political capital that the American people have given them in some very constructive ways. I sure would like to see things get more affordable. I'd like to see inflation go down and wages go up and I things like that. You know, I, everybody knows how much prices have increased the last few years. We got to do something about that first. I hope I hope the Republicans don't take this political momentum that they've got and do something that's a hot button issue that just makes people mad and something silly with it, like we can finally ban pornos, like no, 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 let's do something important that really matters. Let's deregulate, let's get rid of the red tape. Let's let Americans start their own businesses again and have a chance of being successful. Make it easier for us to do business instead of harder. That's what I would like to see them do. That's what I'm hoping for.
Good speech. If you don't mind, I'll add something to it, and then we'll switch to optics. So, I did gloat a little bit, but I agree with you. A little bit of graciousness goes a long way. And in my defense, I thoroughly enjoy watching Jimmy Kimmel shed tears or Kathy Griffin consider going to Canada. All
Oh,
these
sure.
celebrities
Yeah.
who were the usual smug assholes as we were coming to election deserve every bit of ridicule they get.
Yeah.
But not my neighbors. Right. And to be fair, I don't know how my neighbors vote. I'm sure some of them go one way, some go the other. The regular normal people who were wrong in what they chose.
I
It
hope
just
that ordinary American
we
people
should be
talk to
patient.
each other a little bit, even if it's just over a messenger app or whatever. But I'm concerned personally that there seems to be so many people, a lot of people on both sides who are
Hmm.
just like, I can't imagine how anybody could vote for that other side. Like, how could
Oh, I think.
anybody vote for Trump? How could anybody vote for Kamala? And I'm like, okay, if you really don't understand could come to that, how anybody could come to that decision, talk to them. Just ask them, dude, why, obviously we disagree, but like, tell me what you're thinking. Why do you feel the way that you
Ugh.
do? What's your logic? What's your emotion? What is all this
Yeah.
based on? Because I worry that we're getting to a point where we not only do we not understand, but we don't care to understand what the other guy is thinking, and that's a
Yeah.
dangerous thing. That leads us to unhappy places later on as we get more polarized,
So,
right?
I've spent 28 years when I lived in California being the token Republican. And about a decade or so ago, a little bit before, it started really when George W. Bush was president. Boy, did they hate him. Not as much as Trump,
Hmm.
but they hated him. But something started shifting. Before that, for I could have a very lively discussion with people I disagree with, and I am, knuckle dragging, gun toting conservative Jew, and I can explain my positions and how I arrived to them.
Right.
A lot of it stems from the fact that I grew up in the Soviet Union, as I never get tired of reminding you guys. And when I talk about the excesses of the left, I'm not wrong. I grew up with them. But regardless, something changed, and I found myself in a situation where I thought that the people I was having a discussion with were wrong, and they thought that I was evil. Something changed during the second term of W's presidency, and it really picked up steam in 2016. Something went nuts. I'd like to address one more thing again before we go to optics. You said a very important word, mandate. And one of the things I really hope Republicans understand, and there are some signs that they do. Amazingly, I think Trump does. When Trump was giving his acceptance speech, I could do about 10 minutes of that, then I left because I can't listen to that
Yeah.
circular verbal diarrhea. like he's trying to say the right thing. The way he says it drives me up the wall, but seems to be attractive to many other people. So more power to you. But
He's not a
one
great
of the
orator, but he is genuine. You
correct,
know, he's not a great
he's
speaker, but he's what you see is what you get.
he's
You know.
authentic, and his instincts are usually correct, I think. But anyhow, the point I'm trying to get to, also in a very circular way, is that I think one of the reasons why the left lost, and I don't like to say the Democrats lost because it's a nice play of words. You think they're democratic, they're not. They are basically a modern fascist party with Marxist ideology. And that's probably another discussion. But one of the reasons they lost is that when Obama got elected, they decided that they have a mandate to rule. And then they couldn't understand how they no longer have it. And the thing where they made a fundamental mistake, and sometimes it takes an immigrant to realize this, America is not a place. It's not really a people. America is an idea. It's a concept, right? It's a philosophical exercise in individual freedom. In America, you cannot have a mandate to rule. What happened on Tuesday, Republicans under Trump, MAGA, MAHA, Modern Republican Party, name it what you want, they did not get a mandate to rule. They got a mandate to be custodians of this American idea.
Yes.
And Democrats thought they have a mandate to rule. If the Republicans do not fall into the same trap, with the team they have now, they have every opportunity to shrink the size of the federal government a little bit, clean up a few things here and there. But they always have to understand they are not here to rule. They are here to make sure that the rest of us can exercise this American idea of individual freedom, personal responsibility, and life free of excessive governmental interaction. Okay? And
That
that
was
gets
beautifully
lost.
said. I want to set
lost.
that to music. You know, I'm gonna take a recording of that and just put, "Oh, say does that star spangled," in the
It's not bad
background.
actually.
That was
I can't.
beautiful, May.
I
Beautiful,
can't
well said.
sing, but this is again. This is important. I didn't grow up here. You guys, most of you, do not understand what you have, and if you lose
What
the idea, everything else is going to crumble. Okay.
what you're
You
saying
just won't.
reminds me of something. One of the few highlights of my old lawyer career. I don't think about it very much, and I certainly don't point to it very much, and I don't claim to ever have been a good lawyer. There was one judge that I really liked, and his name was Robin Crouch. Judge Crouch, I really appreciated very much because it seemed like he always listened with fresh ears. A lot of times, like when I became a prosecutor, one of the other guys said, "You're going to find out really quick that if it wasn't for like six families in this county, you wouldn't have a job at all because it's just like a few families, and everybody in that family is just bad and they're criminals, and they get all of our work comes from them." But Crouch would not discriminate against people from those families because everybody knew that family was bad and that they all were in trouble and they all were scofflaws. He would listen every time, even if he put this guy in jail three times before and it was his fourth case, he would listen with fresh ears, like he'd never met this guy before, like there was no history there. I'm
Mhm.
going to listen to the facts of this case that's presented in front of me. And I really valued that about him because it's harder to do than it sounds, right? So he was one of the only people that I admired in my legal career. And there was a time when one of these families guys, they hated him because he put them all in jail over and over again, and was basically pointing out that he hates this judge and he hates this court and he hates everything about it, and this judge is dirt to him and everything. He knows he's going to jail, so he's gonna say his piece, right? And Crouch said, I can't repeat the whole thing to him, but he essentially said, "You don't have to like me. You don't have to respect me. You don't have to agree with me, but you have to respect and agree with the chair that I'm sitting in, which I am custodian of this chair. I have to protect this position of judge in this building, in this county, in this state. And it's my job to do what the person sitting in this chair is demanded of them. And when it's not me someday and I lose an election or I die and some other judge or whoever comes in here, you're going to be in front of them because you can't stop committing crimes and being a dummy.
Mhm.
And then you're going to have the same problems with whoever is sitting in my chair. You don't have to like me, but I'm going to do what I'm going to do based on my custodial responsibility to the chair I'm sitting in." And I thought, I mean, that was brilliant,
That
you
was
know,
very well said.
to separate himself out from
Yeah.
the position he was in like that in a way that this dirtbag could understand. It's
That
really
is
stuck with me for
that is
15
very
years
good. Yeah.
now. Yeah.
I like the word custodian, although to the rest of us it has those certain undertones of a high school janitor. But I think the word is a lot more important than that, right? Custodian, caretaker, etc.
Mhm.
It is
Mhm.
since 1776 there were no kings in America, and there we go. There were no kings in America, and there is a reason for it. We don't want one. We don't want kings. We don't want royal families. We don't want anybody who has so much power over us. We just want them to leave us the fuck alone and do their job once in a while. So
Yeah.
I don't know if we're gonna get that. I like the team around Trump. I like that Musk is in there. I like that Tulsi Gabbard is in there. I don't like Tulsi Gabbard at all. I think she's a wolf in sheep's clothing. I disagree with RFK on everything other than his take on the FDA. I'm happy that he's in there. There is Republicans became a large tent party. All these strong personalities disagreeing and arguing might actually do something useful. So
Yeah. I'm hoping for some sort of good disruptive force,
yeah,
because I'm fairly anti-establishment at this point. Honestly, I there's a lot of that bureaucracy and these unelected, unaccountable sort of government drones. I'd just like to see if they can swing a wrecking ball through a lot of that. I
I
think it
want
would help us
somebody
out.
walk behind Elon Musk with a camera as he walks through all those enormous buildings in Washington D.C. Go, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, you're
What do
fired.
you even do here? Yeah.
Yeah. They don't. They really. A lot
Yeah.
of them don't know, right?
Yeah.
But we'll see. Anyhow, now we've got
Optics.
already a good number of people here. I think we can switch to optics. We'll have more than one discussion about politics here and there. This is something I like doing, but I keep political content on all of the different channels I have it. 10 to 15%, maybe, not more than that. And there is a reason for it, right? I'm not an expert, but I like thinking about it. I have a Substack that is dedicated to the political things, where I feel like I want to get something out. But the channel is really about optics, so let's switch to that. Okay, on Mike's t-shirt, you see Gideon Optics in fairly large letters. So for those of you who don't know Mike, I'll let him introduce himself and the company, and I'll tell you a little bit what I found with a couple of his optics that I tested, and we'll go from there.
Okay. So for me, oh, the dogs are barking. There must be a squirrel outside.
Do
For me,
not let the feds anywhere near you, squirrel.
yeah, right. Yeah. The dogs and the squirrels need to form an alliance.
Yeah,
It's not going
and
to happen
raccoons
tonight. I can hear them
apparently.
barking. So, really, the story of Gideon starts out a little bit before. For me, I was working at Swamp Fox. I had been with Swamp Fox. That's, I think, where we met when I was with Swamp Fox. And it was 2022. We were coming out of the pandemic. I had helped Swamp Fox grow quite a bit into, um, I would say, coming out of startup mode, and we were deep into actual small business mode and growing quickly. Things were going very well. And the owner of Swamp Fox called me, or the owner of Swamp Fox called me in the spring of 2022 and said, "Hey, look, the company's gotten a lot bigger. It's getting kind of unwieldy. It's getting kind of hard to manage. I want everybody to discontinue remote work. I want you to move to Denver. We're all going to be under one roof in Denver, and it's going to make it a lot easier. We're all gonna be in one place. It'll be a lot easier to manage. We won't have the communication difficulties of remote work and so forth and so on." Problem was, earlier that year, I had gotten married. In February of 2022, I had married Tess, who you have met, and
I
she
still
had a
don't know
couple
what
of
she sees
kids.
in you.
Yeah, and she had a couple of kids that I married into, and both of the kids are doing really well in very good school situations. And I was like, I can't uproot this family, and drag them across the country for a job. Like the daughter had just gotten into community college. The son is in a great high school. He's graduating this year. She's almost through at University of Houston. She's got about a year and a half left, and then she's gonna get a degree. Like, I can't throw all that away for so I can keep a job. So I chose my family and parted ways with Swamp Fox and said, "Hey, it's been great, but you can go on without me, and I'll figure something else out." And I didn't really honestly know if I could stay in the optics realm or even in the firearms industry at all at that point. As far as I knew, maybe I'm done and I got to go sell insurance or who knows, right? Um, and then a couple of months later, Jordan Vinro, who runs JSD Supply, got in touch with me because JSD Supply had made a pretty good business selling Poly 80, not Glock, 80% lowers, and all of the associated drills, jigs, tools, stuff to make your own not Glock, right? And including slides, optic cut slides, iron sights, barrels and extractors and ejectors and all that stuff. And well, then that summer is when esteemed President Biden had executive ordered all that away. And well, I'm the president and you have to do what I say. So executive order says you can't do that anymore. So he just had, with one stroke of the pen, got rid of their half of their business. And Jordan was not ready to throw in the towel yet. He's like, I've got a good email list of good customers who are used to buying things from me and who open up my emails, and I don't want to just close my doors. So what if we start an optics company? Because the margins in optics are reasonable. It's better than starting an ammo company where you have to sell millions of rounds to make enough money to buy a sandwich. The margins are so bad. And nobody's trying to ban optics, so I don't think President Biden's going to sign an executive order to ban red dots. So it seems pretty safe. And so he was looking for someone to help him start an optics company and grow um, an optics company basically from scratch, right? So I had done that before with Swamp Fox. When I started out with Swamp Fox, I was employee number 6, and that's about where we are with Gideon right now. We've got just a handful of guys who are in Pittsburgh, and I'm down in Houston still working remote, mostly worrying about computer monitors all day. And I do some photoshopping, I do some photography, I do product development, I do a lot of shooting to test things out. I get to play with all the cool prototype stuff, which is my favorite part of the job, is to mess with the prototypes and try to make them better somehow before they become an actual product, and make the final product as good as it can be. And then talking with people like you, although there are not many people like you, Ilya, let's face it. Um,
That's not
you don't
necessarily a
know
good
this
thing.
guy's a real expert in the field, and there's a very very short list of people that I will call and say, hey, I'm really stuck on something. I don't know what I'm going to do about this reticle, or I don't know what I'm going to do about this product. I could go this way, I could go that way. Ilya is at the top of a very short list of people
I
that I ask
appreciate that.
for help
Thank you.
sometimes. Every once in a while, it does happen. I'm like, oh, please help me out. And I think you've never steered me wrong, man. We've always made a good decision based on your input.
Well,
I
I've
try to talk
tried
to
to
real
steer you wrong, but you unfortunately have enough common sense to not always listen to me.
good. Yeah.
Every
So
once in a while, I have all these stupid ideas, and I try to have somebody else test them for me. And Mike is usually smart enough to recognize the particularly adventurous ones.
I wish I had more money for research and development. I could chase down things and say, well, what if we did this? What if we did that? Why can't we
Someday,
do a
Mike.
blue dot? Why can't we do an amber dot for the colorblind guys? I don't have the money for that.
Eventually,
Um,
all in
yeah,
due time.
yeah. So I'm seeing all sorts of really good questions actually popping up here on the right
Yeah,
out of the corner of my
yeah, I
eye. I
see
got
them.
some really smart questions coming. So
Well,
anyway, yeah,
yeah,
we
I'll let
started.
you. Let's do
Yeah,
Gideon for a little bit, and we'll go back and answer all the questions.
yeah. So we started Gideon at the end of 2022. We've had what I call the Generation One products have been out for about a year and a half. We started out with pistol dots because they're an affordable way to start out. If I'm just making up numbers here, but if I'm selling you a $250 pistol dot, and let's say I'm paying $150 for it, I can buy a lot more of those with my initial seed money and my investment money to resell and try to build up capital, versus if I start with an $800 precision scope that I'm spending $700 on, right? I'm making kind of close to $100 each way, the way that it works out. But I can start with the cheap stuff, and so you can have greater volume, you can have a greater number of SKUs to start out with, And then this year we expanded. We've got low power variable optics, 2 1:8s and a 1:10. And I've got a 1:6 prototype over there that I can pull down and show you that I'm super excited about.
Okay, we lost my video for some reason. Hold on.
Oh,
The hell just happened?
yeah, I can hear you, but I can't see you. You're still.
Yeah,
But
it's,
so now we're
I'll figure it out.
expanding. Yeah, we're expanding into other things, trying to be more than just a pistol dot company. We have a 1x prism scope that I really like called the Advocate, and we have a prototype of a 3x that I need to play with some more and develop some more. So we're kind of doing some pretty conventional things, but we're trying to be smart about it. We're trying to be as smart as we can with what we're doing.
Okay, keep talking. I'm still here.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask real quick. So, all right. So yeah, so we have Gen 1 pistol dots that we've had for about a year and a half, and then we have what I call Gen 2 pistol dots, and the first one of those just launched called the Granite, and it's a really big window competition style dot. It started out as a direct to MOS project, and then I liked it so much on the direct to MOS that I said we need to do like an RMR footprint as well, because I didn't want it to be just limited to Glock guys. But the ones that are in stock right now that we've launched are straight to the Glock MOS slide with no adapter plate, because nobody likes the adapter plates on the Glock MOS system. The factory ones are kind of bendy, and they have issues. And you can spend extra money on a good plate. I like Forward Controls Design, Scott Springer at Springer Precision. A lot of people like CHPWS. But like, it's best. I think the future is direct mount. If you can go without an adapter plate, then do that. But then that means us as an optics company, we need to give you the option. You need to have. We need to give you the option of having a direct mount. So it started as a direct mount to Glock MOS, and then I liked it so much on that I was like, oh, we got to do this in an RMR too. So let me just, since Ilya is not on the screen right now and I'm just on autopilot, let me show you guys. Let me just show you guys. So there's that one. There's that one. And where are you? I have this in a baggie because I wanted to keep the screws with it. It's not the most not the most elegant thing ever. There's the screws that I like for my RMR mount. So here's our first generation, and this is actually a prototype because I'm not handling guns tonight because of YouTube rules. So to give you an example, this is a prototype. So if you guys have a Gideon Omega, it's going to look kind of like this, but you see how this is plain? This is what we call a neutral sample, which means the glass is correct, the emitter is correct, the battery compartment, the brightness up and down buttons, all of that stuff is proposed. This is what we want to give to the customer, right? But we're not sure on styling yet. And there might be something that's a prototypey thing that we're trying out, like, hey, these turrets have clicks in them. And then I get another prototype that doesn't have clicks. They're just like a tension turret. And it's like, okay, do we want the clicks or do we not want the clicks, right? And we do back to back, right? So so this is a prototype, and this was done before the final design was finalized. But the glass is the same glass as the current generation Gen 1 Omega, and this is the biggest window that we've had all year. You can see my little ring light there for my webcam. So there's that window size. This is the Granite Comp. And this one's the RMR, so it's a prototype as well, but this one goes to the RMR footprint. And I'll show you guys. Hard to see, but it is so much bigger, especially around the corners.
And that's a battery on the side?
Yes, and the reason is because On the MOS one, see on the RMR, it's not that bad. I can show you against my forehead there. On the RMR, there's the screws. On
Mm-hmm.
the MOS, they're closer together on the top of the MOS side.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no place to put the battery here.
Oh, how
We
interesting.
usually like to do the top feed tray
Mm-hmm.
like that, and we couldn't do it. We couldn't do it in this one because of the
Mm-hmm.
screw location on the Glock MOS. So
Mm-hmm.
we just made big protective wings, and it's a 2032 battery on the side here.
Okay.
So you got a lot better battery life than a 1632, which is what this one is. So
Mm-hmm.
we did go with a bigger battery, and it doesn't stick out too bad if you look at it this
Yeah,
way.
it's not
It
too bad.
looks massive here. It looks like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, that thing's giant. But it's actually pretty flush. You can see this window is just massive, gigantic, right?
Yeah.
And if I could show you it on the gun, you would see that it looks big on the gun too. It looks like a mailbox sitting on the
Mm-hmm.
gun. But we're gonna do that in the RMR and the MOS, and then we have another version called the Granite Carry. That's a slightly smaller window. I was looking for it up there. It's up there somewhere in my treasure chest. But
Mm-hmm.
the Granite Carry is slightly smaller. If you don't want one that's this clown shoes big, like this is about as big as like a Holosun 507C, right? But
Mm-hmm.
costs a lot less. If you don't need it to be this big, you can get a slightly smaller version.
And
And
that's also
we're working
direct
on it.
MOS mount.
Right. Yeah. Direct MOS. We'll have direct MOS. We'll have RMR. And then the other big thing is that on the on the Granite Carry, this will just have like a standard 3 MOA dot that
Mm-hmm.
we always do. On this one, the comp, it's going to have an 8 MOA dot. We kept having people asking, "What are you going to give us, like a 6 or an 8 MOA dot?" And so we're trying it out. This will have an 8 MOA dot in the production ones, um,
Yeah,
because
I'm one
competitors
of
keep
those
asking
people.
for that.
I do not understand the reason for 3 MOA dot. None of that makes sense to me.
I like the bigger dots because I have astigmatism really bad. So if I have to turn the dot up to maximum brightness um, to see good contrast with the target, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I get a lot of artifacting, right? I
Mm-hmm.
get like a I don't ever see a crisp round 3 MOA dot. I see like a comet with a tail. Here you are on
Mm-hmm.
the other side.
Yeah.
I see a comet with a tail, or I see like a bow tie. If I have a 6 or an 8 MOA dot, I may not have to turn it on to max blast in order to see it. I can have it down a couple of notches. Pardon me. Instead of on setting 10, I can be on setting 8 or 7 and still have good contrast and still be able to have fast acquisition, all the things that I want a red dot to do. And because it's not as bright, I don't get as much astigmatism crap going on. I also don't
Mm-hmm.
get as much glare. I don't get as much reflection. There's not as much of a disadvantage if I go from a bright situation to a dark situation because I'm not blasting myself, and I get better battery life that way too. So
Yeah.
there are some advantages, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the
Oh, hello,
interesting
Ian.
part here is that we can have a discussion, and you can try to tell me what would be the advantage of a 3 MOA dot, and you won't come up with anything other than people are asking for it, and that's what they want to buy, right?
The 3 MOA dot is great on what you have there, which is an offset mount for a rifle. It's
No,
awesome at 100 yards or 150 yards on a rifle. Cool.
no.
You're only covering 3 inches of target at 100 yards, so that's great, right?
It's as an offset. It's set up next to an optic. I really don't care how much it is covering because I'll be honest, it's going to be used offhand. And if you are telling me that when you're shooting offhand, it makes a difference whether you're covering 3 inches of the target or 8 inches of the target at 100 yards, you're lying to yourself. Okay.
Yeah, then I need to take that person's class, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I always feel that way when these guys are arguing about MOA size on carry pistols. Like, oh, I want a 2 MOA dot. I don't want a 3 MOA dot. I'm like, if it makes that much of a difference to you, maybe I should take your class because you're clearly better at this than I am.
Look, I think I told you the story, right? That some years ago I took my first class and I realized how much I sucked shooting unsupported. And I went and started practicing. I still lived in California at the time, and I shot what's like a 4-inch 10-shot group, or completely unsupported, offhand at 50 yards, and I just about hurt my shoulder, clapping myself on the back. And all the people shooting off the bench next to me couldn't understand why I'm so happy, right? Because nobody has ever tried. It's a big difference. But on top of it, from a purely physiological standpoint, the way our vision works, you will generally shoot a little bit better with a larger dot. But anyhow, all that having been said, so in order to get my camera back up, I had to reload my browser. I did that while Mike was talking, and it kept the live stream running, so it was a little bit of a risk. But I do not see any of the live chat stuff that was there
Oh,
earlier.
I still see it because I have it continuous.
Yeah, correct.
And I can scroll through it and I can answer some of these
So
questions if you'd
if you
like me
don't
to.
mind, the two latest one, starting about question about RMI pattern, that I see. Everything before that I don't. So
Hmm.
let's do this. Let's go through and catch up with the questions that exist, even if it takes us on a little bit of a tangent. And then once we go through that, for all of you guys who are here, Mike is not here every time, so the whatever questions pertain to Gideon Optics, what they're planning to do, what they've done, what they have, anything about what he said, those will take priority. All right, what do you
So
see there?
Link Chen, who said he plays the Star Spangled Banner and lives in China. Hello, Link. I probably am not saying your name correctly. I should call you
Yeah, Link is
Chen
good.
maybe.
Yeah,
But
so I know Link, he used to be in Utah on like a student visa, went back to China for something, and they're not letting him back in, which is very unfortunate.
that
Right.
is too bad. I'm sorry to hear that. So he asks, any good insights on Chinese-made 1 to 10 FFP LPVOs? I have seen a couple of designs come out. Cool Stalker, don't know it, and Vector Continental, don't know that either. But I've not seen the samples yet. So those are two I am not familiar with. I can talk to you about 1 to 10 FFPs. In general, I have a 1 to 10 SFP that I can pick up here. So this is ours. This is the Gideon Guardian, and it's a 1 to 10 second focal plane. We do have plans to do a first focal plane. They're working on it, but I think they're working on the actual um, optical engineering, the optical design right now. So they don't have an optical design set. They want to work on that and make it as good as they can. I like this. It's a little heavy. It's a little chunky, but it's on a 34 millimeter tube with a 28 millimeter objective lens, which you probably can't really see. Um, really nice glass, really nice coatings. And I did the reticle for it. It's a simple 556 BDC reticle. Second focal plane reticles are so easy compared to first focal plane. So on this, I think this is a fantastic value. I love this optic. It's not on a rifle right now because I had to do some evaluation, but this usually lives on my race gun for competition purposes. And I pay the size and weight penalty gladly because it's so easy to use and it's so flexible, and I love it. Um, in general, on first focal plane or second focal plane, basically in general on Chinese made low power variables, they are getting more and more affordable, but that doesn't mean that the quality is going down. In fact, they're getting more affordable as the quality goes up, which is freaking magical. And a friend of mine that owns a holster company, Tom Kelly, who runs Dark Star Gear, he said something to me a while back. We were talking about manufacturing things, and he said everybody thinks that innovation is some new doohickey. Innovation is it has a feature that you can put on the side of the box that the previous one didn't have before. That's what people think is innovation. There, what people don't understand is a lot of innovation happens when you take something and it does the same thing as before, but it does it better, or it does the same thing as it does before, but it's cheaper to make, or it does the same thing as it did before, but it's easier to make, which translates into cheaper to make as we
Mhm.
get into economics of volume, right? They've figured out how to make these things easier than they used to. That's why they're cheaper. 5 or 10 years ago, this would have been a $700 to $1,000 scope. I'm talking 2012, 2013. If you had this exact optic, in a 1 to
Mhm.
10 second focal plane with the glass that it has, the user experience that it has, the turrets, all that stuff, it would have been $1,000 scope almost. It doesn't have a lot of innovations in terms of bells and whistles that I can tell you about. Oh, ours does this thing and Vortex doesn't
Mhm.
do it yet. So we're special and cool. But the innovation was the very hardworking and good people at these factories in China, yes, who make these things. are getting better and better and better at it. And so we can charge less. This can be about a 450 optic at MSRP, and we're selling them as fast as we can get them made, and they're not breaking, and they work great, and people love them for under $500. Heck yes, sign me up. Perfect, right? And the FFPs will come. The problem with FFPs for me is the reticles. We have a 1:8 first focal plane. I personally like it. Um, I
That's
obsess
the
over
one with
reticles.
the Zoroastrian reticle.
Yeah, yeah. The one with all I call them tent stakes. It's
Yeah,
very busy at 8 power,
I call
but
it Zoroastrian reticles. It's like for the old Zoroastrian religion that was in Persia before Islam took over, right? That's
yeah,
the symbol of their sun god. Had these rays coming out, kind of like your reticle.
yeah. And it's busy at 8, but it also doesn't disappear at 1 power. I wanted to make because I know that we have illuminated LED style illumination in these. It is not as bright as your $2,000 Night Force Attacker, your $2,000 uh, Gen 3 Vortex that has diffractive illumination from Switzerland. The reticles in those optics cost a lot of money, and they're very hard to get. We can't do that. So we can't just like have a reticle that disappears at 1, and then we crank the illumination all the way up and like a red dot.
Mhm.
So the reticle issue is very difficult. There's so many reticles out there for 1 to 10s and 1 to 8s in first focal plane where they just disappear at 1 power and they're useless at 1x, but they're great at 8 power or 10 power when you're shooting at 600 yards. They're great. The hard part is getting them to be good at 25 yards. That's the
That's
challenge.
very true. So
Yeah,
there are some. Well, the scope in front of me, that's a Delta 1 to 10 by 28. So they
I've
do
heard good
this
things about those.
geotextile large rings. That's a nice optic. To answer Link's question, so I haven't seen those new Chinese FFP ones either. Most of the stuff I've seen from China that's FFP in 1 to 10 has not been great. The one that was really good optically and mechanically was Athlon Ares ETR, but the reticle was too thin on 1 power, so they could use a little bit of work there. Um, Reticle design, there are some clever ideas out there, like what Mike did with the 1 to 8 front focal plane. It's viable, they can be made to work, but I'll be honest with you, I am yet to see a front focal plane scope under $1,000 or so, front focal plane LPVO under $1,000 or so that I thought was sufficient for my purposes. With less expensive, low power variables, I basically like this new crop of 1 to 6, 1 to 4, 1 to 8, 1 to 10 scopes that have second focal plane fiber illuminated reticles. I think those fit the idea of LPVO very well. I've tested several.
Yeah.
I think we are getting a little bit too fixated on an idea of a very large erector ratio, large magnification ratio. And we'll touch on that. There was a question where that's gonna come around. I think that path leads us into a dead end when we're talking about budget optics. I would like to see development go in a slightly different direction.
You're not wrong.
We discussed this, I think. I'm
Yeah.
never wrong. And
Oh
when
yeah.
I'm wrong, see rule number 1.
Yeah.
But
Right. No, I
okay.
think part of the appeal part of the appeal of 1 to 10s, frankly, is that we like to buy the thing with the biggest number. Why would you do a 1 to 4, 1 to 6, or a 1 to 8 when there's one that goes to 10? And it kind of has the 1 to 4, 1 to 6, and the 1 to 8 already built in. This does 1 to 4, and it does 1 to 6, and it does 1 to 8, and it does 1 to 10. So why wouldn't you do this? Do the one with the biggest number. And I think Americans in particular, we tend to think that way. I've got a Dodge Challenger that I love, and it's got 390 horsepower. You know what's better? The Scat Pack that has 500 horsepower. You know what's better than that? The Hellcat that has 700 horsepower. Is Do I really need any of that? Do I need a $700 Hellcat? Is it really that much faster than mine? Because it weighs a ton and it doesn't have a lot of tire under it. It's not a very fast car, really. It's great for doing burnouts because it's got more power than it has traction. but we always want the thing with the biggest number, right? It says 700 horsepower right there on the hood. It's got to be the best one. So yeah, it's a more nuanced and difficult conversation to say, hey, sometimes a 1 to 6 can do things better than the 1 to 10 if you design it smartly, if you're intelligent about what you're doing, right?
Well, there
Is
is a
that fair?
question later about ACOGs, where I think we'll
Hmm.
come back to that. Before that, what else am I missing that I don't see?
Uh, Jared has hit us with a bunch of questions.
Hmm.
Any breakthrough budget-friendly projects from brands you've been impressed by? Um, so
Well, let's start with brands I've been impressed by. Let's start with Gideon since Mike is here.
yeah,
And actually, no, let's not start. Let's end this question
maybe
with
we can
Gideon.
circle back to that.
Yeah.
He said, what would my personal optics choice be for medium range scope on a bolt action small caliber, like a 223 to 243, and he means 200 to 300 meters? What would I do? And my answer to that is, the question is always, for me, the question is always, what's my balance of speed and accuracy? Because I can hit at 300 yards with a red dot, but mostly I want a red dot for speed. Um, if I want absolute accuracy and I'm trying to shoot at, um, a King of Hearts playing card at 300 yards, and this is my target at 300 yards, then I want like a 5 to 25 precision scope because my target is so small, and I need things like adjustable parallax, and I need very fine turret adjustments, or a very nice Christmas tree reticle that's going to help me with my holds and
Hmm.
all that stuff, right? So it depends on what's my balance of how fast do I want to engage versus with what degree of precision do I need to engage.
Most important question: how much do you want to spend?
There's that too. But even if
Right.
I spend $3,000, I can still get it wrong in terms of I put a
Yeah,
giant scope on it and
people
now I
do all the
can't
time.
shoot fast. You
So
know.
I'm gonna give you, Jared. I'm gonna sort of give you a generic answer to this. For what you're looking to do is what we used to call a walking varminter gun, right? It's a gun that's a little bit more, let's say, a little bit more accurate. Looking at the calibers you suggested, a little bit more accurate than a some ultra thin barrel hunting gun, but still light enough to walk around with. And you may be shooting something at 50 yards, maybe at 300 yards, etc. What you're looking for is some sort of a modern 3 to 15 power scope. A really good example of this. You don't need front focal plane for this because with the cartridges you're asking about, I think it was 243 or something like that. You don't need to worry about drop too much. You're going to be pretty close. What you're looking for is some sort of a relatively lightweight 3 to 15 power scope. In absence of a price range, I'd say look at Vortex Razor HDLHT 3 to 15 by 42 or something along those general lines, and that will basically do the work environment role. Okay, it's $1,000 or $1,100, which is a lot of money. If you want something cheaper, there are 3 to 15 or similar scopes out there. But without knowing the price, I'd say that's where you're going to spend a good amount of money, but get a lot of performance.
An underrated optic from my old company, I think it's underrated, is the Kentucky Long. They make a 2 to 12. I've got a couple of those still up there, and
That's very nice. Yeah.
it's not a giant scope. It's not big and heavy and bulky.
Hmm.
It's not much bigger than LPVO, but it's got really good glass, nice reticle, and they don't break the bank. They're not expensive.
Hmm.
Anyway, it's
That's
it's
a
it's
nice
a
scope. Yeah.
project from my last company, but I'm still proud of it, and it's still for sale today. And
Yeah.
Gideon is not making a competitor for it yet. So props to
Yeah.
my old Swamp Fox guys.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
testing the
okay.
Swampbox 2 to 10 Warhawk, which I really like, by the way. It's a nice scope.
Yeah,
And I
that'd be a
like
good
it
option
more
too.
than Kentucky Long. For a little more money, not that much more. So,
There's some discussion about amber LEDs.
okay.
Amber LEDs do exist, but
Hmm.
they're way expensive and they suck down battery life, and the contrast with the target is not as good. So you pay significant penalties to try to do amber. You're killing your battery life. It's harder to shoot, hard to use. Um, there's one more thing. It's more expensive, so the optic's going to cost
Hmm.
more. So those are barriers, right? So probably realistically, what happens with that is that you see a company like Holosun, which is really a giant industrial emitter company that happens to have a subsidiary making pistol dots. You probably see them come out with it first. They'll make a breakthrough on amber illumination at some point, I hope.
Well, I mean, they
And
already
then,
have it, so.
Yeah, and then a year or so later, you see that technology will kind of trickle down, and those emitters will hit the open market. And Holosun has amazing emitters, and the rest of the market tends to try to play catch up, including us. What can we get? What can we do that's going to be as bright as Holosun? What can I get tomorrow that's as bright as the Holosun that I could spend extra money for today?
Hmm.
So they do a really good job. They have unlimited money to play with. But we try to be just one step behind them and cost less. You know,
Okay, it's not bad.
that's the way I
So
look at it.
yeah, I've openly said that I try to not use anything Holosun because they don't have a red dot company by accident. Their original avowed goal was to develop weapon sights for the Chinese military. They went to the US market, used us to test out different weapon sights, and now every rifle the Chinese military uses has a Holosun under different name. They have another brand name and on it. So I don't do Holosun, but on the rest of it, Mike is correct.
Yep.
The big advantage of
Thus
Amber,
the unlimited money, because once you get
correct,
into once the Chinese military's writing you contracts, you got some
exactly,
R&D money there, kids.
that's for sure. But
Yeah.
anyhow, the advantage of Amber, and I happen to like Amber, is that it plays much better with your astigmatism
Yes.
for most
Yeah.
people.
And of course the colorblind guys.
Correct.
The
Yeah,
guys
the
that can't see
colorblind guys
red,
see
they
it
can't see
better.
green, they're kind of stuck.
Yeah.
I'd like to do
But
something for them.
so again, Swamp Fox on a Tomahawk Gen 2 made an Amber Dot, and I tested the 124 earlier this year, and I really liked it. And I live in New Mexico. Everything here is yellow and brown, and I didn't think contrast was an issue.
Good.
But battery life, was somewhat short. That you're absolutely correct. Amber LEDs have existed for a long time. We've had them. Trigicon has them. What's that guy? Brian Brow had them. Then Holosun had them for a few years now. I don't think they'll ever have huge market adoption, but I think there is a niche for them. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, that's how I
So
feel. Yeah.
yeah, there was a question there, something about Marines and an ACOG that I no longer
Yes.
see.
The USMC swears by their ACOGs, but if you were making the optics choice for them to use on M4s, what would you buy? Note,
Okay.
US Marines break everything.
Oh, please. They're not that bad.
Hmm.
So
You go
first of all,
first.
you. Mhm. Oh, so there's an answer to this because ACOG, the U.S. Marines is no longer buying ACOGs, right? They use ACOGs that they have in the inventory, and they're switching to low power variables. There have been several different programs by the Army, by the Marines, etc., and they're usually either 1 to 6 SIGs or 1 to 8 Trigicons. There are SIGs got two programs, two different reticles. They all wanted the Razor Gen 2, and it went through the Army procurement stuff, and I got everything other than the Razor Gen 2. It's kind of interesting that way. But they're switching to low power variables because there is a real advantage to having lower magnification available to you. There is a real advantage to having a little bit more capability in the variable optic, and the ACOGs, while very very durable, are not any more or any less durable than other high quality modern optics. This whole myth of indestructible ACOG is just a myth. I've spent quite a lot of time at Fort Bragg. There is a bunch of our equipment there used to test all sorts of interesting stuff. That's for my day job. And I have seen buckets of broken ACOGs and buckets of broken everything, right? ACOGs are very good. The whole myth of incredible durability is okay. It's marketing. It's just like Night Force. Oh, we can pound nails with our scopes. It's good marketing. You can do it with any scope made by the same manufacturer to the same standard, which a bunch of companies
Yeah, I
market.
don't generally do that, but I'm pretty sure this one would do it. Like, this is pretty thick. I mean,
It's a
I just don't like to wreck my stuff,
It
man.
is a stupid way to demonstrate optics. I
Yeah,
object to it in principle because it assumes that the target audience is the lowest common denominator and they will be impressed by the stupidest fucking thing possible. The most mystifying thing is that it actually works.
ugh,
That's why I don't do
yeah.
marketing for consumer products.
So, I'll try to put it more diplomatically. So
Well,
we
somebody has to. I'm not doing
we
it.
have we have enclosed emitter optics called the Mediator, and we're working on the Mediator 2. Yeah, there's a
Right there.
Mediator. And we're working on Mediator 2. I've got prototypes up there. The Mediator 2, we moved the battery to the top. The window's bigger. Blah blah blah. It's
Hmm.
narrower. It's improved. It's better. I like it. Like it way better than the one you've got. Can't wait for these things to come out and become real and become a real product, because I'm like, I don't even shoot my old mediator anymore. I want the new one.
Yeah,
Let's do
no,
the new one,
I
right?
other than
Yeah,
dot size, I actually like this thing.
thank you. Um, but I was talking to somebody and we were talking about this giant thing, and the big window and its
Hmm.
open emitter, and you're talking about, well, you've got your enclosed emitter on the one hand and you've got the open emitter on the other hand. What are you doing? And I said, well, it's not the same core customer, because fortunately the guy that likes to run over his scope with his F-150 truck and the guy who owns and uses a shot timer is a Venn diagram of two circles. There's very little overlap
Yeah,
between the guy who
correct.
has
Yeah.
a shot timer and wants a big window and the
Hmm.
guy who is like, hey, I smashed it on a tree and it still held zero. Not the same guy. um so yeah, I think I've played with the VCOG, the Triticon LPVO that the Marines have. Man, that thing is a boat anchor, dude. It's like
And
30 something
for the
ounces.
record, good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your video just died again. Oh, there it is. It's coming back.
Well,
I see you
interesting. No,
again.
I see myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, for the record, I think what for toughness is they, and of course the mount is built in, and the battery is built into the mount, so there's extra weight there that you're not just weighing the LPVO, but
Mhm.
the mount that
Yeah,
is
it's,
molded into it, right?
but on the inside, it's just the same 3G low power variable they've always had. There's nothing in that made it actually tougher. It looks tougher. That's pretty much it.
Why is it so darn heavy then? Just the
That stupid mount is heavy. That scope was started out as it's at the Light Optics Works, 1 to 8. It started out relatively heavy, and the mount is really heavy. But somebody there knows somebody, so when the Marines wrote a spec, they put a weight limit at exactly the weight of the VCOG, so it would qualify. So
yeah,
it's just
yeah.
one of those.
Well, the Marines can do more push-ups and get stronger anyway. That's what they do.
All
Yeah,
of that is temporary. So
yeah,
since Vortex introduced that new shorty 1 to 10 AMG, eventually everybody's gonna go to that style of a low power variable. Mark my words. And we can talk
yeah,
about that if you want, but that's gonna be later.
yeah. I
So
agree with you. It's
yeah,
amazing stuff.
yeah,
Also crazy expensive. I've had
correct. But
good
again,
I've had good
it has to
cars that
start.
cost less than that thing.
It has to start. It's not that expensive, but yeah, it has to start somewhere. It's not really very available for civilians yet. They have too many military orders. But when we're talking about what I think the Marines should go to kind of finish this conversation, Mike, I think you and I've talked about this a while back, and I've talked about this to several companies. There are prototypes out there, but nothing that's a product yet. What I would really like to see, I would like to see a 6-inch long 1-to-4 low power variable. Not maximize the erector ratio. Make that thing as short as humanly possible. Make it the size of a full-size red dot if you can. 1-to-4 is enough, maybe 1-to-5, 1-to-6, or 1-to-3, somewhere in there. I want it short and compact so it works really, really well behind all the different type of clip-ons you can put in front of it. It's not gonna weigh down the rifle too much. I think somebody will do it, and it will start adoption. The next frontier with low power variables that I see is basically what Vortex did at first with the AMG. I'm not talking about the XM157. I'm talking about the AMG. It's a little bit different. It's that is going to proliferate because if you look at a gun as a weapon system, which is what the military does with the family of weapon sights and all sorts of other fun stuff that's going on there. If you look at it as a system, short overall length makes a huge difference because now your clip-on is not here; it's here.
Yeah.
Makes all the difference in the world. I've walked through a maze where the eye was an XM157. Okay, it makes all the difference in the world.
So when you do a short LPVO, Ilya, which there are a couple on the market now that are a little bit shorter than the rest.
Hmm.
March has a short one.
Correct.
The primary arms PLX is pretty short.
Yes,
In terms of
I have two of
optical,
those.
yeah, in terms of optical engineering and optical features in use, user experience,
Hmm.
what do you give up when you make a super short LPVO? Are you giving up depth of field, or what is it?
Yeah,
Because there's no such thing as a
so
free
that's
lunch. So if it
yeah,
was
correct.
easy, everybody would be doing it. So
It's not easy. So first of all, you do give up some depth of field. Focal lengths start getting shorter. That's why I said 1 to 4.
yeah,
Vortex did a 1 to 10, but it's hard, and
it is hard.
I can't talk about
Hard
it too
things are
much.
expensive.
There is a lot of NDAs, and I can't talk about that too much, but it's hard.
Hmm.
It performance-wise, it's kind of like a Razor Gen 3, except it's 2.5 inches shorter, and that's a huge difference. Like
Yeah,
people don't understand how big of a difference it is.
absolutely.
You give up some depth of field, but if you keep the magnifications moderate, it's not that big a deal. Doing proper distortion correction and the off-axis resolution becomes harder. So your lens shapes start getting a little bit more complicated. You have to do more with A-spheres and stuff like that. But it is doable. We know how to do it. We just don't quite know how to do it in a budget. But it's getting there. Like that's the natural evolution of things, right?
Right. That makes
And
sense.
in terms of optical compromises, the primary arms, and what Mike didn't mention, he used to work for primary arms before SwapFox. So I'm very friendly with Marshall, who owns primary arms. I like the guy; he's a smart dude, and
I agree.
I think
I have
he's
a
an
lot of
honorable
respect for
man.
Marshall.
Yeah, he's an honorable man. And I don't say that about everyone. Notice I didn't even say that about Mike. Still waiting. I needed a couple more years. If you look at the PLX Compact 1 to 8, there aren't really any optical compromises, but it's not 6 inches long, it's 9 inches long, right? As you start going down from there in length, it gets rougher. And it gets exponentially rougher too. But with what we have now, a high quality, relatively affordable 6-inch long 1 to 4 is already doable. It's just that marketing people for optics companies are not adventurous. They are afraid that a 1 to 4 is not going to sell because it's not bigger, better, yada yada. Somebody's going to do it. They'll sell a boatload of them, and everybody else is going to do it too. But there's going to be that one first person who's going to make a product good enough and market it the right way. So
I hear you.
yeah.
This is the part where I take the URL from this podcast and I send it to my boss and go, "Hey, Ilya's got an idea. What do you think?"
It's risky. You guys don't have your own design house. You have OEMs you work with, so
Yeah.
it's. But somebody's going to do it. I don't know for sure what form it's going to take. But I basically want a 6-inch LPVO. I want it to have a 2.5 inch, no longer eye relief, so you can have nice wide field of view without an enormous eyepiece, and make it an AR-15 scope. And that's enough eye relief for any intermediate cartridge.
What if we gave up 1x down low and we made it like the loophole, how they had like a 1.5 to 4? What if you
I
didn't
don't.
have to simulate 1x down low? Would that
Yeah,
help simplify things? You could make it like a 1.25
that
and
would
pop just a little
make
bit.
things simpler, but 1x is important. So
Hmm.
1x is why you could still sell it and make it marketable. If you make it 1.5, now you can't really market it.
See, and to me, the way that I shoot and the way that I run stuff, I like to experiment with things. I can put one of these things on 2x and run it sort of Bindon style with both eyes
Mhm.
open, and I'm fine. Like to me, it doesn't hurt me that much to have it at 2x instead of 1, and so it's like to me, I don't feel like I would personally not want to consider an optic because it didn't go all the way to
You
1. But I
would.
know you're right. Overall, people want that true 1x.
I would too, but this has been tested ad nauseum
Hmm.
by the military and by civilians and all that. And if you are not going to do 1x, then you need to be doing something else and bumping up the objective diameter a little bit. If you bump up the objective diameter, you cannot make it that short. In order to make it that short and that usable in the 1 to 4, you're probably going to shrink the objective to 20 millimeters down from 24, 28.
Could you run it on a 1-inch tube if you did that?
You can, and once again, it would be harder to market, but you can. And personally, I would prefer it. Everything that makes it lighter and handier would be good for me.
Right, because you're talking about something that's light, and we're trying not to weigh down the
Yeah.
The reason why this thing is so big and chunky is it's on a 34 millimeter tube. The 30 millimeter one for our 1:8 weighs less. We
Well,
go to a 1 inch, you give up some adjustment, but it would weigh
yeah,
even less.
aluminum is not that expensive. It's a fixturing inside and the lenses that are a little bit bigger, that are heavy.
Yeah.
Aluminum is not that heavy.
For those who are watching this impromptu brainstorming session of optics development, I think what you can take away from this is that there's no such thing as a free lunch.
No.
Everything you must give to get. Everything is a trade-off. Everything is, I want this. What do I have to do in order to get this? Oh, well, then you got to do this, this, and this. And I can't do that. Have to give up too much. And then the thing that you thought
Mhm.
was a good idea winds up not happening because you weren't willing to sacrifice all of the other things.
Mhm.
You weren't willing to go to a 1 inch tube and a 1.25 or a 1.5 low end magnification. So therefore, the lightweight 1:4 project winds up fizzling and it doesn't become a consumer product. These things
But
happen all the time.
eventually it will.
Yeah,
Eventually it will.
yeah.
All right. So anything else that I missed in terms of comments before Golden Retriever's question on the
Cool.
RMR pattern?
No, let's do the RMR pattern question because that's a good question.
Yeah.
Do you
My,
think you want
yeah,
me to
go
read
ahead.
it off?
Oh, I
Do
can
you
see this
think,
one's.
yeah,
Mhm.
do you think the RMR pattern will continue to have its staying power when the shield patterns are what most companies are using for enclosed options? I spend a not insignificant amount of time worrying about this because we need to make optics that fit the widest variety of guns possible. But we also don't want to have a skew for every pistol that's out there, which Holosun's not afraid to do. They've got this SCS system. We're doing direct mount, and they just will have a skew for a Walther and a skew for an HK and a skew for a whatever. Like they're doing it per gun. We can't do that yet. So I need to figure out what the most popular footprints are and go with those as time goes by. And I need to not waste my company's time, money, and resources on developing products that nobody's going to buy because nobody's running the Burris Fast Fire 3 footprint in 2024 because that's just how it is. I do think RMR has a ton of staying power, but I think a lot of it is inertia right now. There's a lot of we're doing RMR because we've always done RMR because that was the most popular thing and it's the way it's always been done. And it's sort of inertia going forward. But I think RMSC, the Shield RMSC footprint is actually the hottest footprint right now. We have uh we have two, three new SKUs, three new products that are supposed to launch by the end of this year on the RMSC footprint, which is pretty wacky because we only have one product right now that's on RMSC. So we have the Gideon Judge right now, which is a very sort of standard, very small 16 millimeter window RMSC footprint optic. And we're doing an enclosed emitter, which is called the Valor Mini. And then the regular Valor will be enclosed emitter, but on RMR. So for Valor Mini and Valor, imagine imagine like a Holosun EPS that doesn't need a plate. It's going to go straight to the top of your slide, RMSC or RMR. Um, but it's very sort of EPS shaped. I think I've got a prototype up here. I'm looking. There you are. Aha. This is a prototype Valor Mini. This was about halfway through the development process. This one is again a neutral sample. You'll see it doesn't even say Gideon anywhere on it yet. Basic prototype, right? Proof of concept. Does the glass work? Does the emitter work? Like I talked about. This one was too wide. It overhangs the slide too much on a Glock 48 or on a Smith & Wesson Shield 2.0. It's too wide. It's stuck out. I tend to be a thumbs high shooter. I tend to flag my thumbs high. If you've got an optic that's jutting out the side with sharp corners, it's going to hit my thumbs. It's going to cut me up. Don't want that. So we had to go back to the drawing board. I said, make this more narrow. Make it to where, if a Glock 48 slide is such and such a millimeter, I want like a millimeter of protrusion here and a millimeter protrusion here and no more, right? So we had to go back to the drawing board. They had to redesign it. And I have run this much closer to production, but it's actually on a G48 and I don't want to handle it. Thanks YouTube. But we'll have these enclosed emitters. There's a Judge 2 that's going to come out that's much beefier. It's open emitter, but it's beefier and it's cool looking, and it looks like a claw. It's going to be Judge 2. It's going to come out. The claw is like for barricade racking, and it's sort of a built-in sunshade to help prevent glare. It's really cool. And then the last one is called Judge XL, and in the prototype phase, I called it the Canic TV. I always have stupid names before we come up with the real name. I always have like a dumb name that I come up with. So the Judge XL was the Canic TV for the longest amount of time, and it's basically that little narrow small RMSC footprint, but it necks up to a bigger window than a Trijicon RMR. So you have a big window, and what that was for is for the Canic competition guys that are running the Canic pistols that are like a full-size service pistol or a competition pistol, but they're stuck with that skinny little RMSC footprint because the Canic slide is like a trapezoid and it narrows at the top, so there's no room. They went with an RMSC footprint because the top of their slide was that narrow. You can do adapter plates and stuff, but then you got a lot of overhang and it's just visually ugly and everything. We want a direct mount right onto the RMSC with a big window. So I think the Shield RMSC footprint, I hope, is really exploding. There's a ton of optics that are coming out with that footprint baked into them. The staccatos have that footprint baked into them, so the staccato guys will get a big optic, a big window for competition for those guys. So I think we're trying to service needs that we see. Guys want a big window. Okay, we can do that. We can make that happen. Another one that he mentioned, the DPP. I just took it off the gun. This is my Delta Point Pro prototype, and we just named this. I've been calling this Johnny all year long, but I can't put Johnny DPP on the box. But it's been Johnny Depp. This is going to be called Storm. So you've heard it here for the first time. We've not talked about it on Instagram. We've not talked about it on anywhere else. This will be the Gideon Storm, and it is our Delta Point Pro footprint. Again, pretty darn big window on this sucker. Very low deck height, so it should. Again, remember how I said before about innovation and how people think innovation is a new doohickey or a new feature you can put on the side of the box? Sometimes innovation is things like improving deck height. Look at the difference.
Well, that is actually significant. That is hard to do.
Yeah, there is a significant difference in the deck height. Oh gosh, I'm getting myself all backwards here. This actually has like a faux iron sight in the back, which makes it look taller than this. Let's try it this way. There's a significant difference in deck height here. A reduction in deck height. There you go. Now you can see the difference there.
Yep.
A reduction in deck height is innovation. The one that's on the right side of your screen is innovative. It's the one that has been improved. It's been a lot of work has gone into making that very, very small change. But that means you may not have to buy aftermarket iron sights to get co-witness with this, or they won't have to be so tall. That's a big improvement to make the deck height that small and still have 1 MOA per click with clicks in this that actually are tactile and audible. You can feel it, you can hear it. It's not just a tension turret. That's a pretty big deal for what's going to wind up being a $250 optic, I think, at MSRP. And you can see here side tray battery. Again,
it's a 1632, right?
Yeah, I think it might be a 1620, which is what the EPS uses. A little bit smaller. Yeah, I think that's a 1620. Actually, pull it out and look. But so we're working on. I've heard through the industry that the Delta Point Pro footprint is making a comeback. I thought RMR was going to conquer the world, and the RMR was going to be everything was going to be RMR if it was big, and it was all going to be RMSC when it was small.
Mhm.
And apparently, the Delta Point Pro is making a comeback, and we heard from multiple people in the industry, "Hey, you better make an optic for that footprint, or else you're going to be losing out. You're going to miss market share." So we
So,
did.
can I add something to that?
Please, yeah.
What company do you think has the most market power in the optics world?
Woo! In the whole world,
In the optics world, the entire sporting optics world, which company has the most market power?
I'm tempted to say Sig Sauer
Yeah,
because it ties into
it's
that whole one shop stop. They have
yeah,
every kind of scope. They've got magnifiers and prism scopes and LPVOs and precision scopes and pistol dots and battle dots, and it all ties into other SIG products. They've got that sort of you buy everything from us, and it all says SIG from the ammo to the holster to the dot to the
yeah.
firearm.
That's what they're trying to do, but it's not. It's Vortex, and it's not close.
Hmm.
Okay, it's Vortex, then there is everybody else. In the red dot world, for a little while, it was Trigicon, because they were the first to make a truly robust red dot sight, the RMR. And then Trigicon did the Trigicon thing. They are sitting on their laurels. They are not updating their design, not updating their lenses. They're enclosed. The enclosed optic is weird. There are
And
problems,
expensive. My
and
goodness.
it's really, really expensive.
Whew.
So Vortex had some red dot sights that were just to have a product. Now they came out with their Defender product line,
Looks
which have
really good.
3 red dot sights, and they are very good. And I know a bunch of people at Vortex, and they're basically flat out telling me that as far as ruggedness, durability, performance, they are happy with this thing. They're proud of it. They're not worried about releasing all these incredible volumes on the market, which is something, right? So, of the 3 different Defender red dots, I have one of them here, the XL. That's a DPP Delta Point Pro footprint. The medium one is also Delta Point Pro footprint, and the small one, the CCW, is an RMSC footprint. Okay. It doesn't mean RMR footprint is dead, but it means that unless Trigicon does something to give it a shot in the arm, it's going to start slowly withering away, because there will be other people who will just supply everything for every footprint, the Holosans, Gideons, etc. But the biggest names who Holosan probably ships more red dots than anybody else right now. I have some numbers that I can't disclose, but it's a lot of red dots. Vortex is
believe you.
probably going to overtake them because they're Vortex. The way they do their marketing, the distribution they have is significant. And Vortex went with Delta Point Pro. It will push a lot of people, a lot of red dot companies, a lot of companies that make slides for guns into the Delta Point Pro footprint.
Better have
Why
a product
Vortex?
ready.
Yeah. Why
Yep.
Vortex chose that footprint, I cannot tell you. I don't know. I didn't ask them, right? But I like the footprint, the way the screw location works. It's done nicely, and one of the easy things is that the RMSC footprint and Delta Point Pro footprint, the location of the screws and the pins is the same. It's just the length of the cut is different. So that gives you nice continuity for compact sights and for full-size sights. That
Yeah,
is
it should make design
probably going
easier.
that is probably going to have some staying power. So I think that will overtake it if it hasn't already, the RMR footprint red dot sights.
Well, you disclosed some things, so I'll figure out a diplomatic way to disclose this. You alluded to it. For those who are watching this podcast, first of all, I don't disparage other companies because it's a bad look, makes me look
Mm-hmm.
bad, and I don't want to make enemies in this business. There's plenty of money to be made. We all have our own customers. I don't want to ever say anything inflammatory. I don't drag other people through the mud. Um, but he said what I heard through the grapevine, through my contacts, was a lot of the pistol manufacturers were less than happy with the amount of coordination, communication, cooperation that they are getting from Trigicon when they are developing a pistol, when they're developing an optics ready, pistol for the first time, maybe, and they haven't really done this before, and they call Trigicon and they say, "Hey, you guys have a great brand name. Everybody loves your stuff. Will you work with us on this?" It winds up not happening. Well, will you at least send us some units or give us a discount so we can buy 20 of these things to test and to put on our prototype pistols while we're working on our optics ready prototype pistols? And then the answer was no, we're not really interested in working with other companies, and we're not really interested in giving discounts either. And so that's what I heard. I don't know if it's true or not. Maybe I'm just passing along hearsay, but hey, it's a podcast. That's what we do. We talk shit. And so, for me, for Gideon Optics, and for Michael Branson, my rule is very simple. I try to treat everybody fairly, and if I tell somebody I'm going to do something, I try to do it in a reasonable amount of time and do the things that I say I'm going to do. And hopefully, my reputation is that I'm an honest person who does the things that he says he's going to do in a decent amount of time, even though I'm really busy. And that's gotten me pretty far. And I can imagine that being someone who didn't want to cooperate with others would spell the end of me fairly quickly in this business. If I didn't want to cooperate with others, I didn't want to collaborate. You probably would not hear from me again fairly quick. But I don't have the buying power or the staying power of a company with large military contracts.
Okay.
I have to care what civilians think.
Yes, you do. So Jared is asking about predictions on upcoming gun laws or policy changes following this election. I'll let you take this. I need to go plug the camera and make sure it doesn't run out of charge. Hold on.
Sure. Wow. So yeah, predictions on upcoming gun laws or policy changes. Well, I mean, I could give you my wish list. I'll give you my wish list. Let's overturn the NFA. Get rid of a 1934 law that was enacted basically so a bunch of revenuers could keep their jobs. You guys know why the NFA was passed, right? Because the guys that were chasing bootleggers and beer runners during Prohibition wanted to keep their jobs after beer became legal again. And they hated the gangsters and they hated the rum runners. They hated the guys in Tennessee with their moonshine stills. And they said, well, what can we get these guys on? We want to chase the same guys because we hate them. Well, we could highly regulate those Tommy guns. We could tell those rednecks in Tennessee, in Kentucky, that they're going to jail because their shotgun's not 18 inches long and their rifle's not 16 inches long. And at the time they passed the NFA, a $200 tax stamp on a firearm was ridiculous. Remember, you could buy a car for $35 then, right? Nobody was going to spend $200 to register a gun with the federal government. Are you insane? So it was basically prohibition again, but of firearms instead of alcohol. So these feds could keep their jobs, and instead of kicking down doors on suspicion of you having alcohol in your house, they were kicking down doors on suspicion of you having a machine gun in your house. So if I had a magic wand, or if I had an audience with President Trump or Vice President Vance, and I was in the same room with them, that's what I would say. Get rid of that. It's racist. It's misconstrued. It's out of date. It's an evil set of laws that's been evilly and unjustly enforced. I can point to Waco, Texas, and Ruby Ridge. I'm old enough to remember when that stuff happened, and they burned people alive because of a $200 tax stamp. So yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. But if I had my choice, that's what I would do.
Yeah, I'd get rid of the NFA, or at least pull the suppressors out of it.
Yeah. Well, why is a suppressor considered a firearm under the NFA? It's clearly an attachment. It's an accessory. It doesn't shoot. It goes on the thing that shoots. Oh, but it's a firearm. But why? Because we say so. Because we're feds and we're bureaucrats, and you can't do anything about it. That's why.
So Don Jr. seems to be interested in that, but whether it's going to go anywhere or not, it's hard to say. It's a politically very difficult issue because all of our wonderful celebrities who watch too many movies are going to go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, we're all going to get quietly assassinated.
Right. And they think that Miami Vice TV show is a documentary. Yeah. So what I think could potentially happen realistically, and I don't know if this will be legislative, executive, or judicial. I don't know. But I think in a couple of different ways, we have, going back to my lawyer days, we have a lot of what we call conflict of law right now that I think we may see it settle in the coming years. So, like, we see these referendums on recreational marijuana use, and like, you go to this state, and marijuana is still like a felony, and there's all these people in jail, and they'll, pull you out of your car and, throw you in cuffs because they thought they smelled marijuana. And then you cross over state lines, and hey, wow, that state made $2.3 billion in tax money off of selling marijuana last year. Right?
I just want to
And
point out that when legalized marijuana in California, the state of California got into the marijuana business and lost money. For the first time in history, somebody managed to lose money on selling weed. Never
they
happened
couldn't
before.
sell whiskey on a troop train.
Yeah.
They're so inept, so inept. But like, so I think we're gonna get to a point where like the Supreme Court's gonna go, okay, like nationwide, there's going to be some case that's going to come up there. They're going to look at it and go, all right, you can smoke this stuff if you want to, because clearly that's what everybody wants to do. And this is out of hand. And there'll be some reason why they do that. I can also see that happening things like national concealed carry reciprocity. All right. If I am an NRA certified instructor, a USCCA certified instructor, a range master, Tom Gibbons certified instructor, and I've done all those, and I've got the certificates for all those things, and I can carry a Desert Eagle 50 cal in Texas if I want to, and that's totally okay. But then I cross over state lines.
It is not okay. It may be legal, but it's not okay.
But I cross over state lines and I go into Illinois, because I have a friend that lives there. I can't carry a single shot 22 because there's no reciprocity. They have to recognize my driver's license. They have to recognize my birth certificate. They have to recognize my social security number. These are all documents that I got from the government, right? The government handed me these documents. The government also handed me this document that says I'm qualified and responsible and trained to carry a firearm to save my life. I don't have to use my fists. I can use a tool. The government says so. Oh, but not that government, because they're assholes. Yeah. I think that realistically there's a possibility that we see at least a reciprocity where governments have to recognize, whether they like it or not, rights that have been recognized by other governments. And there's other stuff like that, right?
I don't think it's likely, but it's possible. Have you, by chance, read the book Justice Gorsuch a few months ago published a book called Overruled? Two words. I highly recommend it. You'll enjoy it. I think so. I think pushing through legislature, even with the Republicans controlling House of Representatives and the Senate, at least for a couple of years, is going to be hard because these things are politically dangerous and our politicians don't have the balls for it. But what the administration can do, where they have more leeway is doing things to taking an axe to a lot of the administrative state, right? To millions of these conflicting rules.
Roll back 1968 Gun Control Act stuff that's got way out of control.
For example,
they do a lot of stuff in the name of the Sporting Purposes Clause that they could redefine that. They already have the other way, right?
Yeah.
Wake up on the other side of the bed and redefine some regulations, and all of a sudden say, "Oh yeah, you know what? That stupid 5.45 ammunition it's not armor piercing after all, because you know what? It's not. Green tip ammo isn't armor piercing at all, because you know what? The steel core doesn't really do that much." right? There's a lot of, yeah, you're right. There's a lot of regulatory stuff where they could ease off if they're smart about it.
Yeah,
You just have
I
to
don't
have
know if
some
they will.
program people
Yeah.
in that bureaucracy if you're going to keep the bureaucracy. Ideally, they just abolish the ATF entirely, but that's not going to happen.
As much as I'd love to see ATF gone, and there is no reason for it to exist, if they're going to abolish government agencies, Department of Education goes first. And that's going to be, we can do another rant
Yeah,
on politics. There is
we'll
a reason
see.
for my bad.
I hope they swing a few wrecking balls for sure. So
Anyhow, so looking down this is probably a little more relevant because it sounds like every time you and I get on politics, we're going to go on a wild tangent. But
who,
when can
me?
we?
I'm
Yeah,
shocked that you would say that.
I'm shocked to hear myself say that. When can we expect to see the release of the Gideon 3 Power Prism?
Not this year. Next year. It's got a ways to go. We have some other things we're cooking that I haven't talked about yet. I didn't want to make this just a complete shill. Oh my gosh, we got so many cool things coming up. We do though. We got some cool things that are coming up. I'm just not
Well,
going to talk about all of them tonight because I'll bore you guys to death. I think it's super exciting.
good.
But yeah, not everybody's going to feel that way. But
Yeah.
the 3X is in progress. I need to make a reticle for it. Ilya, I'll probably ask you what you
Mhm.
prefer in a basic. For reticle design, I like big, bold, in your face reticles. I don't like fine reticles that are slow and hard to see. I like a big reticle, and some people disagree with me. Some people think the big reticle gets in their way and is too much information and so forth. But I like a bold reticle, but I need to do a 3X reticle for that prism
Well,
scope.
so I did a review of your 1X Prism, and I actually liked the reticle. It is really interesting.
Thank you.
I had several 1X prismatics here. I have your, what's it, Advocate, I think is the prismatic, right? Advocate. You have interesting names for your products that I have a hard time remembering.
That's the hardest part is naming them.
Yeah.
I can't call this thing Johnny Depp. You know, like I have to come up with a real name for it.
Call it Dirk Diggler. If you've seen that movie, you'll know. But yeah, I have the. So I actually ended up giving your Advocate to a friend of mine. He's in my video on it. He put it on his Scorpion 9mm and loved it. And
They're
what he
great
loved
for
the most,
PCCs. Oh
that's
yeah,
why I don't have it here. I have the Mediator here, but I ended up giving him the Prismatic. He's a good friend, and I like the idea of using his gun when I do reviews because, like, I need diversity of firearms. But what he liked the most about it, arguably, was the reticle because it was
thank you.
simple, it was visible. I had four of them side by side, and I have to admit that for the things where I use a 1X prismatic, I don't need rangefinders, I don't need holdovers. I need something that I can get on target fast and pull the trigger.
Yep.
And that one was the boldest of them all.
Thank you.
Right. I don't know if it was the best of the prismatics, honestly, although it gets a lot of crap out there. I really like the new GLX from Primary Arms in terms of how easy it is to get behind. It is a real step forward in many ways. But, oh, I forgot to turn off the illumination. It's still running. All right. But the
It should
reticle,
have shake and wake though, doesn't it? Doesn't it turn off when you set it down? Ours
yeah,
does.
it does, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Interesting.
that
Okay.
helps.
Yeah. Somebody asked me how well it works all the way arm out on the revolver, so I'm looking at it. Actually, adequately well. But having a big bold reticle, I think, for a weapon sight of this type makes a difference. I think you did a good job there. For the 3X, well, we can talk about it offline. I have some ideas.
Yeah,
But,
we'll get there, but I need to do a reticle for it at some point. Figure out what we're gonna do.
yeah,
So I'm
there's
looking
a
through.
couple ways of going about it, but we'll see. Let's see what else. Something about the colors that has amberish illumination. They have an orangish dot. Mr. Ready 7420 says 1 to 10 front focal plane don't make sense to me at all. That's just my experience. To each his own. I have a couple of them. I view them as general purpose scopes, right? I will, like the one in front of me, that's a Delta. I have a Razor Gen 3 back there. They have to work well on 1 power, on 10 power, and on 6 and on 3, right? So these are the magnifications I use the most. They have their place, and I'm willing to pay the money, right? It's hard to get that level of performance in an inexpensive scope, at least for now.
Yes, it is.
Link is asking, Mike, any plans on doing fiber wired reticle? Does 1 to 10 SFP with fiber make sense?
So I have a fiber wire reticle right here. So again, Link's really killing it tonight. He's doing great.
Well, he also works for an optics company, so
Yeah,
it's market
he's
research
doing
for
good.
him.
I'm showing him my stuff to a competitor. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Link, talk to me. We'll figure something out. So nameless prototype doesn't have a name. It probably would get folded into the Guardian line. This is a 1 to 6. It's smaller, lighter
I like it.
than this. Trying to figure out a way. It's
There you go.
see that
30,
significantly.
30
The
millimeter
the
tube.
bottoms are the same. So
Yeah, the
like
mount
that, right?
sucks, but the
Yeah.
scope looks nice.
So smaller, lighter than the 1 to 10 or the 1 to 8s. This has capped turrets instead of the exposed locking turrets that these have. There's a few changes. It's prototype. What can we do? This is actually the result of a what if that I asked at Swamp Fox, and they said no, can't do it, and it didn't happen. And then I moved to Gideon, and I said the same what if again. Like I still had the same idea. What if we did this, right? And so this is the result of that. I really, really like it. And this has fiber optic illumination in it. That's really good. I have had prototypes before that I won't dig out where the fiber optic illumination was not as good. It wasn't fully mature yet. They were trying, hey, we figured out how to make it work. What do you think? And I was underwhelmed. Yes, I can tell it's fiber optic, but it doesn't give me good target contrast. It's not bright enough. It's not doing what I need. This one I really, really like. This is I don't want to overpromise. But hey, it's a podcast. I feel like this is like loophole fire dot bright in here. It's just pretty good for Chinese made stuff. I'm pretty happy with it. It is still not as bright as the Vortex, the Light Optic Works Vortex illumination. It's not that bright. But I would say it's like as bright as like a Steiner PX4i. So it's that bright. I really, really like this 1 to 6, and it's going to be cheap. It's going to be inexpensive. It's going to be about $300 MSRP. And it's really, really good for $300. And I hope people are still interested in 1 to 6s. But the idea, the concept of this is my anti-scout scope. So if any of you guys know me, I don't like scout scopes at all. They sacrifice everything so you can get that foot-long eye relief, because the scout scope has to be mounted on the front of the ahead of the action on the bolt action, so the rounds can be ejected and feed and everything. You have to have the top of the action clear on the bolt action, right? So you put the scope way out here, and it's way far away from you, and you have like a foot of eye relief, right? That's a scout scope. You have to
Technically
sacrifice
9 inches,
everything.
but okay.
Yeah, you have to sacrifice all this other stuff, and Ilya knows even more about it than I do on how to make that foot long eye relief. So
I just put one of those on my lever gun.
yeah, I don't like shooting with them. I don't like working with them. They don't agree with me, right? But I always thought to myself, if they can sacrifice all the other aspects of the optical design in the name of eye relief, I thought, what happens if they sacrifice everything else in the name of exit pupil and eye box? What if I told them I don't care about anything else except this is easy to look through? I want this to be just as fast on 6x as the other guy's scopes are at 1x. Could you do that? Could you make that? What could you do to make the shaft of light coming out of this thing as wide as possible, so I can go boop, come up and get myself a side picture right there, right? Um, and that was what I challenged my factory guys, my guys. What can you do? Can you make me an optical design that's optimized for a big exit pupil and basically make it as easy to look through as possible? And I'm pretty happy with what they did. Let me see if I can. I'm going to turn this light off on my webcam. Let me see if I can
I'm
show
gonna make you
you.
bigger.
Look how bright that is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm at, okay, so that's at 1 right now.
So before you turn it off, Mike, before you change it, keep it on 1
Yep.
for a moment. Get it back on 1. Try
Yep.
to line it up to the camera like you did, and start pulling it back toward you slowly, while
Right.
still try to see the dot.
It's really far away from the camera right
That's
now.
good. That's what I see. Okay, very good. So we are looking at about a 14-15 millimeter exit pupil on 1x. Got it. Okay, I'll just try to see
Yep.
exit pupil size on 1 power.
Yeah. So, and you can
So,
see it doesn't look like a
so,
true 1x right now.
I'll interrupt you for a real quick moment. Notice, guys, when Mike is moving the scope, there are moments where the view is completely shadowed. You don't see the image anymore, but you still see the reticle. Right? That's why second focal plane brightly illuminated like that. Second focal plane brightly illuminated reticles are fundamentally faster when you run it, and more forgiving when you run it with both eyes open. Because even if you are misaligned, you don't see the image, as long as both of your eyes open and you see the bright dot, you've got that OEG thing going. Yes, you can still aim rapidly with a lot more movement of your eye behind the scope. With a front focal plane scope, when the reticle is 2 optical systems away from your eye, you don't get that effect. So that's 6
Now I've
power.
got it on 6. And I want to show you. There we go. Even at 6x, I can hold this thing up to my freaking webcam and you can look through it
That's very nice.
at 6 power. I'll pull it away here and you can get an idea of the.
Okay.
Does that help you out on exit pupil there?
Yeah. No, exit pupil on 6x is going to be objective divided by magnification. On 1x, you're not using the entire objective. That's what I was curious.
Yeah. So anyway, bottom line is I love this thing, and it's really easy to use.
Okay. So, Mike, I'm going to have to leave you in charge of the commentary for another 5 minutes. I want to make sure my kids are going to sleep. Give me 1 second.
So, this will probably be Gideon 1 to 6, 30 millimeter tube, 24 millimeter objective lens. So, my question to you guys that are still watching, that are in the comments, what do you want? What do you want? What would you pay for? All right. Do you like exposed but locking turrets? You guys have seen these before, right? So I can't turn the turret. I have to pull it up. Are you zeroed? Yes, you are zeroed. I have to pull a turret up away from the scope body, and then I can make my adjustments, and then I push back down, and now it's locked, right? Right? That's the exposed locking turret. Do you like that better? Or do you like a thinner turret? See how it doesn't stick out as much? It's lower profile. It's wider but lower profile, and it's got a cap to it. Now, the other cool thing about this prototype that I think is neat, nobody's seen this yet. Exclusive Dark Lord of Optics, exclusive prototype stuff from Mike Branson. One click is a quarter MOA. So we have successfully cut all the others are half MOA clicks. So this is twice as fine in terms of adjustment versus the older ones. So it's a quarter MOA adjustment instead of a half MOA adjustment. You can see how low profile that turret is. And it's still very nicely, let's see if you can hear this. Hear that?
A little bit, yeah.
Hear those clicks? Very nice clicks in it. Very nice audible and tactile clicks. They're not mushy. And the turret's not so tight that you can't just do one click at a time. Because I won't say who it is, but there was a very nice, expensive precision scope that I was behind recently, and the turrets were so tight that I couldn't get one click at a time. I'd like really muscle it, and then it would sort of go, and I would do 2 or 3 clicks. and then I'd have to go back. And I thought, gosh, for the money that you're spending, that seems kind of a pain in the butt. What if I just want to count clicks or do one click? I think they thought people were just going to do large adjustments and go by the numbers that were engraved, and nobody was going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with their eye still behind the scope, which is how I do it. I want to look through the optic and see what I'm aiming at, and simultaneously go 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, right? Anyway, these are the little things that we talk about, little user experience things that engineers that don't shoot don't think about. You got to talk to real shooters. You got to talk to people that are actually out there using the product, because if all you talk to is the guys who build stuff, they're not gonna understand the nuance of stuff like that.
That's a very fair point. Okay, let's see.
Let's see what they said. I gave him a question. I want to see it. They're low profile with caps. Oh, on a scout rifle. Scout rifle. Well,
I like scout
rifles. It's not a scout rifle if you don't put a scout scope on it, right?
Hey, I have scout scopes too. Look, if LPVOs existed, we would not have scout scopes, right?
I agree.
But
if Jeff Cooper was alive today, he'd be running like a
correct.
like a 6.5 on an LPVO. Yeah,
pretty much. But here's the catch: scout scopes were created the way they were for really, two reasons. Colonel Cooper had a thing against detachable magazines, and he wanted to load his receivers with a stripper clip. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, from top.
Not a good idea. So just looking through the comments real quick, Link had some mention about the Vector scopes. I haven't seen that one. I assume you haven't either, which is $200. Vector has very varying product quality, but they OEM for a few people, and those are QC'd much better. So Mr. Ready7420 is asking how many Premier 5-25s the Marines have left. Not many, and they never had many. They had a lot more 3-15s. That was the Marine Corps scope. Gun Totes in Minnesota digs one of your LPVOs. He's going to be at SHOT Show. If he has a moment, he should come visit Gideon Optics.
Please, we'll have a booth. I'm going to be there. It's going to be really fun. Yeah. I love SHOT.
Jared has a question that's kind of right up my alley. Has anyone matched Leica for optical quality? I've been really impressed by the ones I've seen.
Well, you should take that one, because I can't afford no Leica. So
I may have a couple here and there, and I have a Leica camera. So Leica is capable of making amazing optics, but Leica's really amazing optics is a Magnus, and they no longer bring it to the United States. As far as second focal plane hunting scopes goes, I think Leica Magnus is the best I've seen, but there are a couple that are close. As far as front focal plane precision stuff, LPVOs, etc., I mean, there is a Magnus there, but Leica hasn't really done that much. Generally speaking, there are companies, if they want to charge as much as Leica charges, optical performance is going to be close. There are a couple of things I like how they do it, Leica, but it's not pixie dust. It's just optical design. But Leica is very, very good. Let's see. Oh, Guntot in Minnesota. His name is Andrew, by the way. He was with me for the election live stream on Tuesday. What about the Athlon 1-4.5? That's that. This is competition scope where you need to go up to 4.5.
Oh, like the CMP scope? Is that what that is?
Yeah. It's okay. And it's relatively short, but it's not that short. And it was not really designed as 1-4.5. I took a 1-6 they had and shortened it. That's what everybody did. So
I had people when I was at Swamp Fox that would ask me about doing a CMP scope. Like, hey, do something that tops out at 4.5 for the CMP guys. And I'm like, man, the problem is, like, I would have 3 guys a year ask me that. Like, we could go through all of the work of developing the optic and all of the costs of research and development and everything, and we'd sell like 15 of those things a year. Boy, we felt like the juice was never worth the squeeze to actually make it.
It's probably not. There are not that many people who shoot with them.
If the big
Um,
companies that already have 1,000 SKUs aren't doing it, then a
yeah.
company that has 10 SKUs should probably not
But
focus on
here's the
that.
catch, right? So on the fancy end, there is Nightforce, March, and Leupold. And on the affordable end, there is Athlon and Hilux Leatherwood. It's just not that much of space left in the market for it. Interesting. So Mr. Golden Retriever goes, I'm right with you, Mike. That was when we had a discussion. Do you need it to go down to 1x? With my eyes and ocular focus all the way in, I find very little difference between 1 and 1.5. That's only if you don't run it with a timer. That's why I run a March FX 1.5 to 15 by 32. I have that one behind me in there. So you just kind of proved my point. It's 1.5, but the objective is 42 millimeters, right? So
Bigger,
uh,
heavier optic too.
it's
Yeah.
slightly different. MPVO and LPVO are kind of a different thing. They overlap, but I don't know. They're not direct competitors because the use case is slightly different. Link is
Good
asking actually a
questions
good
tonight.
question.
I'm not surprised to see that your audience is well educated and knows their stuff. Not
I
surprised
try
at
to be.
all. You mentioned nerds.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Does Shield Sights have a patent on their clear untinted lens? Not that I'm aware of. So, Mr. Ready 7420, if you are starting to put the battery on the side on pistol sights, why not create a base on your optic that can direct mount to multiple pistols? Such a good
It's not
question.
direct mount anymore. You've just created plates again. You've reinvented plates,
Well,
basically.
what he's trying to say is that if you drill multiple holes to mount everything else, you can't, because the way they're too close to each other. You can't, right? If you
Yeah, they
had
overlap.
multiples far apart, you could in principle create, two sets of holes for different mounting patterns. But for most of them, they're so close together that you can't.
And it's frustrating. It's frustrating from a manufacturer point of view.
Mhm.
The other thing that frustrates the crap out of me is, and you know this already, Ilya, is screws. Um, I went to the range. My friend Alex was changing out a couple of optics on guns he's going to take to a very important class, and he
Mhm.
was like, "Hey, I can't get these screws to work. I'm really lost. The class is going to be this weekend. Like, meet me at the range, and we'll figure it out." And I brought this my range bag down there. See this? This is all different screws that different manufacturers use,
Yep.
and different. Oh, look at all this crap.
Yep.
All different screws.
Mhm.
Ridiculous. Why can't they agree on on a thread pitch? This is
None
this
of
is this is
none
out of
of them
control.
talk to each other. Look, so once again,
Yeah.
I'll mention Vortex again, although it's technically we're talking about Gideon. But I'm sorry, Mike. Vortex doesn't give a shit about you at this stage,
Oh,
for
I noticed. Yeah.
a variety of reasons. It's not personal. So this Defender XL that I'm testing, I think it has 6 or 8 something different little baggies with different screws for different guns. They basically said screw this, and they send this kit with every site they send out,
Yeah.
because it's
Because there's no
it's insane.
standardization.
Yep.
No standardization.
Yeah.
Um, I would like to see more standardization in screws and thread pitches as this industry moves forward. Hear my call.
Yeah, not happening. Uh, Carrick TV. Okay. Oh, Golden Retriever. I would 100% cut my G48 for that Storm. NGL. I
Too
don't know
narrow,
what NGL
too
is.
thin. The Delta Point Pro.
So you cannot do
So
Delta Point Pro on a G48. It's too small.
yeah, this is too wide, dude.
So G40, I carry a G48. It has an RMSC cut, and that little enclosed sight you have with an RMSC footprint, that I would like to test when you have it. Because for carry guns, I will say this: I carry an open emitter red dot sight. I'm getting a little annoyed with it because you have cleaning out the inside is just a pain in the ass, and stuff gets in there. So I am going to switch for my carry gun to some sort of a compact enclosed red dot sight, because on small lightweight sights, in my opinion and my testing, lots of testing, a lot of testing, window size matters the least for those. For competition guns, bigger guns, yes. For something like a Glock 43, Glock 48, I don't hugely care about the window size, and I am okay with a small and close sight. So what I found, and I've been doing this experimentation, is that if the gun is light enough, what seems to really make a difference for me is not the initial presentation, it's a recovery. On a large window dot, if the gun is heavy enough, I do not lose the dot during recoil impulse, and I'm legitimately faster on a follow-up. On a small compact, where no matter how big the window is, I am going to lose the dot during the recoil cycle.
So what difference?
Then I come back to it for the follow-up shot is basically the same speed with any reasonably sized window size.
Yeah, I ran drills back to back with the Granite Comp and the Granite Carry. The Granite Carry window is a lot more like the Storm or Johnny Depp here. So these two are pretty close. I think the Granite Carry is maybe a little bit shorter, but I had both optics on Glock 19 side by side, and I ran drills on the timer. And for the kind of shooting that I do and the level of shooter that I am, I didn't incur a time penalty going to the smaller window. Transitions, doing plate racks, doing bill drills, blah blah blah. The bottom line is that whatever performance level I'm at, for good or for bad, whether I'm a really good shooter or a really bad shooter, whatever you want to call me, I would say I'm probably fairly mediocre, to be honest. Be honest with you, I did not necessarily need the corners of this window to aim with. So the window could be smaller. We could cut these corners out, and we could have something that's, more like this size with the corners gone, and I'm just as fast. It doesn't really matter to me that much. However, in competition, you have the factor of the match director always trying to make things harder and always trying to push people to their limits. And so you have crazy stages where you have to lean on one foot, but don't put your foot on this side of the line, and you're shooting left hand only, and you're sort of all cattywampus, and the things, because that's the position that the match director has put you in for the scenario the course of fire that he's laid out. And then you need a jumbotron, the biggest window you can possibly get, because your presentation, your grip, everything is so compromised by the position that the match has put you in, that you need every edge you can get with the hardware. But in terms of draw to first shot and something like just defending my life at the local gas station, when some guy goes berserk in there, and it's one guy wearing a ski mask and carrying a crowbar, in decent lighting at the local gas station at midnight. I'm kind of with you. I don't think I need the biggest window possible in that circumstance if I practice, train, do my dry fire, hit the range, and I'm a responsible gun owner who's not treating this thing like a magic wand that's going to automatically save my life because I put it in a pocket. You gotta practice with these things.
That is very, very true.
Yeah.
All right.
Your draw to first shot is your life-saving tool, man. You got to practice that draw to first shot. I got to work on more.
When we had a discussion about what company has the most market power, Mr. Rody 7420 thought, I know he's going to say Leupold. No, not even close, not anymore. So,
no, there was a time.
Yeah, that time's long gone.
I have heard. I've heard that an optics company that starts with Bush but doesn't end in Master, an optics company that starts with Bush is very close to being on the way out. Have you heard that?
Yes, correct. Yeah, they are on the death throes. They can be recovered, but it's basically corporate mismanagement.
Sorry to hear that. I mean, like, maybe it benefits us, maybe it benefits other, budget branded, basic optic companies that are making products that are, how do I say this, that attract a similar core customer that company used to attract. So like you would expect me to say good riddance, haha. But I've owned their glass before. I've used their glass before. I had good experiences. I still have one of their spotting scopes up there that I still use. It's always sad to see the mighty fall.
Yeah, especially when they didn't have to. It's self-inflicted.
It's a pity. Yep. Everybody else is probably going, "What? Who are you talking about? What's going on?" Sorry, kids.
Yeah. Oh, very interesting. So link is added again. So first of all, Dr.
Like
Jingles
this guy.
goes, so I have a couple of 3x prisms from your competitors and their reticles are too small. There is market research for you. On the 1 to 6 prototype, looking great. Now the question is how to defeat the PA SLX Nova at this price range.
Very good
I'll
question.
be honest with you, you don't have to defeat it. That market size is growing rapidly. And I think this is where rising tide lifts all boats.
PA's doing a lot of things right, man. They have hit some real home runs in the last
Mm-hmm.
couple of years, in my
Yep.
opinion.
Yes,
Yeah,
agree.
they really have. They're doing a lot of things right.
Yeah.
Marshall's he has invested heavily in his optics division. It's way different now than when I worked there.
Yeah.
Way different, way bigger. And that investment has paid off. I hope. I think, but the investment has definitely brought excellent products to market. There's no doubt about that.
So again, so
I
now
mean,
I
I
have
don't
to
know if they're
think.
making money in terms of like paying off the investment. They probably are, but I know that it resulted in a better class of product because they
So
grew that section.
let me think a little bit for a moment what I can say. I can't say anything other than if you happen to go to SHOT Show, swing by PA booth.
I always do. There's a few people that I know that they're still there
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
I hold in high regard.
Yep. Okay, Mr. Reddy is going that I feel like I should say my 1 to 10 comment is based on my personal preference at 3 to 12 FFP with your preference of offset red dot. Yeah, that's perfectly reasonable. Like quite a few people would probably do better with that setup. Again, as I said, it's a different application. Oh, and this one is important. It's also Rhodia 7420. Every 1 to 10 FFP I have seen just fish eyes and you need to train the eye relief. So I don't know which FFPs you've seen, but for the higher quality ones like a Razer Gen 3 or this Delta, a few others, if it fisheyes on you, you did not set the eyepiece correctly. I've run into this now an uncountable number of times. I know of one Razer Gen 3 that was actually built incorrectly, had to go back. Dozens of other cases, every time somebody was complaining about it, they couldn't get the fucking eyepiece figured out because nobody pays attention. Forgive me if it hurts your feelings. Adjust your eyepiece every
Let me
single fucking
piggyback on that.
time.
Yeah. Let me piggyback on that a little bit because there's something that I've run into in my customer service adventures and also with YouTubers. You'll get these YouTubers who they kind of have like a formula that they follow, and there's boxes that they need to check for every optic that they review. And when they do LPVO, one of the first boxes is it a true 1X? Is it true 1X? Does it check that box or not?
That's a
Well,
stupid.
it depends on your eyes, not mine, Mr. YouTuber, because we have this adjustable ocular here. This one's almost all the way shut where my eyes like it, but I can open it up and you'll see that dot there? That dot is the middle of its travel.
Mhm.
So when I do like photography through the reticle or video through the reticle, I set it to here instead of to my eye because the camera's lens does not have the flaws that my eye does. The camera's lens likes this middle setting the best, I've noticed.
Mm,
Um,
there's a better way of doing this, but okay.
but for me, for what I
Mhm.
what I do is I this is what I set for camera
Yeah.
work.
Mhm.
But some people need it like when I shoot, I need it to be almost all the way closed with my eyes. Other people need it to be, you can see that it opens up quite a bit, right? But there is a small amount of magnification change that occurs when you move this. And so if you have eyes that are strongly favor an extreme amount of adjustment in the adjustable uh, fast focus ocular lens, you're going to think that all of these LPVOs have a little bit of negative magnification, or they all have a little bit of positive magnification, because to get the reticle sharp, your eye dictated that it be set this way. And I've run into that. These guys are like, well, all of them have the same flaw. From $300 LPVOs to $2,300 LPVOs, they all have the same flaw. No, your eye has dictated that.
That is very accurate. So again, I've done videos on this. I'm not going to rehash the whole thing. If you want more information, I've done multiple videos on how to adjust the eyepiece and articles for Shooting Illustrated on my website and other places for different types of rifle scopes. So I'm not going to rehash the whole thing, but basically a spectacular number of people don't pay attention and get it wrong. Okay, so keep that in mind.
Please read my user manual that I wrote that explains all this. I worked really hard on that.
yeah. That was actually not too bad. And again, a lot of the fault is with marketing people, especially for large optics companies, because they don't know how to set up the eyepiece either. I've been battling this for years. It drives me absolutely up the wall. With the 1 to 10 specifically, because so many people are complaining, I went and tried to chase it down. I went and visited several companies, visited their customer service departments where we would have scopes sent back and look at them. I've chased down specific scopes by the serial number through the history. Only one time was I able to find something where there was actually something wrong with the scope.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfreaking believable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see. Golden Retriever goes, I used to have the locking turrets like the Arrowhead, but I just stopped diddling to most LPVOs. I prefer the lower cap turrets, even if it is harder to track. What's the target weight? 16 ounces, 20 ounces. I assume that's for your fiber illuminated LPVO. What weight are you targeting?
There is a lot of this stuff that's a lot of optic stuff. It's not just budget, but also personal preference. It's such a crowded market. There's so many different options. If there was one thing that everybody agreed was better, everybody would be doing it. If there was one thing that everybody agreed was dumb and stupid, nobody would be doing it anymore. There's so much variety in how people's eyes perceive things, and what their priorities are with this rifle or that rifle. Like I have a use case for all of them. I like optics. I got a ton of different rifles and pistols with different optics on them. I love my job. That's cool to me. I like that. But there are, so I can argue for a use case for all kinds of different stuff. But if 3x prisms were dumb, and why would I buy a 3x prism when I have this that goes from 1 to 6? Nobody would be making a 3x prism anymore, right? 3x prisms are over. Hashtag whatever YouTube reviewer. 3x prisms are over because of the LPVO. No, they're not. Red dots and magnifiers are over. No, they're not. Last year, maybe this year, maybe this summer, there was a threat of a big during the summer, there was on the YouTubers, there was a big outbreak of LPVOs are over videos. Oh, LPVOs are done.
The brass feds did this. A bunch of people did this.
Yeah, and I was like, what? What planet are you on? Are you kidding?
It's about, look, I wrote a long rebuttal. One of these guys made a video and saying a high quality 1 to 10 is impossible. And I would have ignored it, but he referenced me in his video, which was horseshit.
Oh, dear.
So I wrote a long rebuttal.
Uh-oh.
It was just bullshit. Like he's a nice guy, but somewhere in his video he said how many hours in college he spent taking a class on engineering physics. When somebody tells you he took a class on engineering physics, that means he's never taken one, because there is no such thing as a class on engineering physics. So, it's it's horseshit.
By the
So
way,
here's an interesting
personal
ahead.
note. My stepson that I married into is going to try to go to A&M for engineering next
Oh,
year,
very nice.
and I think
Good
he's
for
got
him.
the mental chops to do it. He's way ahead of where I was at age 18. He's a smart cookie.
Okay, you became a lawyer. There was something really wrong. There was something wrong with you when you were 18.
I don't suffer from insanity. I enjoy it.
So here's a nice, interesting comment from Link. So he works for Discovery Optics. Says, Mike, my company has a bit less than 300 people and making optics, but only less than 5 had ever shot a gun. So you commented on that earlier. This is your confirmation. Okay.
Yeah, I firmly believe, at least for I don't know, other people can. I don't mean to disparage anybody or put anybody down, but like, the company's better, the product's better when the people working for the company use the product. So like, if I'm working for Porsche, I probably shouldn't take the subway to work every day.
It's a Porsche. Yeah, it's from 2.5 Men. I don't know if you haven't seen that episode.
Yeah, but like, I'm not gonna, if I'm working to develop a race car, I should talk to race car drivers. I should probably know how to drive, even if I'm not particularly fast. I should know how to drive a stick shift if I'm working on race cars. I believe that. I think it makes it better. I have met tons of people in this business who are in the firearms industry and don't own or shoot firearms. I'm like, well, let's go to the range. I do this like once a week, dude. You know, I might go tomorrow. You know, why? How is it that you've been in this industry for 10 years and you don't know how to load a magazine? You know, I don't understand. You know, so someone who sells refrigerators probably has a refrigerator in their house. If you're selling guns, you should probably have a gun in your house. What are you doing? But anyway, that's just a personal peeve of mine.
But to be
Use the
fair,
product
if
that
you
works.
have a factory in China, finding people who've ever shot a gun is much
Well,
harder.
yeah, that's different. Those people are precluded from using it. You know what I like to do? I like to fly them out here to visit us during SHOT Show and take them to the range. Ah, that's fun. That's a lot of fun. Get some of those people from those factories and those places, and they get to actually use the product that they helped to create and that they helped to design. You want to see some happy people? Oh boy, that's a good day. I'll do that anytime. And by the way, yes, they're Chinese. By the way, they're really good people. They want the same things that we do. They want to have their kids go to a good school and have good food and clean water and to have a little bit of money in their pocket. It's the same stuff I want, folks. And if you think we don't like our government, boy, howdy, they don't like theirs. And we both deserve better governments. We deserve a better government, and so do they.
They deserve a much better
They have a
government.
lot more in common with us than you might think.
Oh, you don't have to persuade me. I grew up on the other side of the Iron Curtain, remember?
That's right.
So a couple of quick things here. Doesn't RMSC and DPP have the same post and screw pattern? Correct. But this length of the body is different. And for the best robustness, you don't want to only depend on the screws and the posts, if possible. It's one of the problems with Glock's MOS plates.
Here we go. Here we go. I can prove it. See my big, balding, shiny forehead. So on top is that's RMSC. That is Delta Point Pro. And they line up.
Yeah.
There it is. But you can see one's longer than the other. There it is. Ha-ha! See what happens when you have like a half a dozen scopes lying around on the table? You can do stuff like that.
Yep. So Gun Totem Minnesotans is clarifying some comment of his that I didn't see before. It says, just to clarify, my comment about the LPVO was about the Delta. I have not had a chance to try out any Gideon products yet, so no opinions just yet. I'm not sure.
Oh, he's a mill guy. Probably talking about MOA versus mills.
Oh, probably. Maybe there was something there. So he's right. Mill is Milliradian is a God's angular measure, and MOA comes from the devil. I'll go the record with that.
Yeah, but my company's got MOA turrets ready to go, and they don't have mill turrets ready yet. So I have mill reticles that are on the drawing board, but they're not available for sale yet. I don't see his original comment either. It disappeared from me as well. But I do also, I speak both languages. I can speak both. I know you do too. I like the 10 base system of mill as far as the math. I like that a lot.
Okay, all jokes aside, for low power scopes, it doesn't hugely matter. But if you're going to be holding for wind or lead, you need to stick with one angular unit. It's too easy to make a mistake. I think in Milliradian, so it works better for me. I'm very much used to it. If you're used to MOA, you can do that. For precision stuff, I think the wind holds are much easier with Milliradian, just easier number to remember. But it just depends. Remember, right? So I shoot everything, but I'm fundamentally a long range guy, right? That's my first and last love. I do everything else. I enjoy it, but I'm a precision guy.
Yeah. Right? Well, once long range gets its hooks into you, I can see how it definitely would suit your personality. I'm a pistol guy. There's only two kinds of 9mm pistol, kinds that I have and kinds that I want to buy. That's the only two kinds there are. I've either got it or I want it when it comes to 9mm pistols. So that's the way that I roll. Okay. And Link, I see your comment. I'm not going to read it to everybody, but I see your comment. I appreciate you. Politicians will always be politicians. They'll always say ignorant and stupid things. There is no reason why ordinary people like you and I cannot be friends and value each other very much. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay, that's fair. I'm not going to read the comment out either.
Yeah. But I appreciate your efforts.
Yeah. So let's see. Okay. All right. So it's almost 10 o'clock here. We should start wrapping up. We had a lot of good questions. I do appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.
If any of you are coming to SHOT, visit Mike at Gideon. I'm going to go and check out what they have. When I go to SHOT shows, when I figure out what I'm going to review during the coming year. So I'm curious.
We should have some cool stuff. Yeah, we should have some cool stuff by then. Some Gen 2 stuff, probably some prototype stuff that hasn't been seen yet that I'm not even talking about yet. Gideon I'm really proud of what we're doing. It's really solid stuff. To show for my company for a minute, we've had products for about 1.5 years now. By the time we hit SHOT, it'll be almost 2 years since we've really been selling stuff. I know what the return rate is like. I know how many of these things we get back to us. I'm very proud of that return rate. It's very small. It's very reasonable. These products are not out there breaking and letting people down. I do carry a Gideon Omega on my PDP compact carry gun. I trust my own life to this company and its products. So I put my money where my mouth is on that. And we are doing some really cool stuff, and it costs less. So Jordan likes to say we sell Toyota Camrys. Everybody likes to talk about Ferrari, and I like to talk about Ferrari and Lamborghini and Porsche. I like to talk about all those, but I drive a Dodge. I'm never going to have a Ferrari. Probably never going to have a March or a S&B short dot. Probably never.
I should probably not tell you how much my competition rifle costs.
Right. I'm probably never gonna have a Tangent Theta. Zero compromise. It's not gonna happen for me. I got car payments to make. But I can have a quality 1 to 8, 1 to 10 LPVO. I can have a competition pistol dot for $250 at MSRP. Wait for a sale. If you can't afford $250, look on Optics Planet. They'll sell it for less, right? I can have a competition pistol dot. I can go compete, and me with my, if I have a Canic that has this on it, and the other guy's got a Walther that has a $600 optic on it, I can compete with that guy. He doesn't automatically win every time. He flubs a reload, I've got him, right? Because I'm right there for half the money. That's what we're about. That's what we're about. Our products will help you. They won't get in your way. They're easy to use. They're reliable. They're easy to understand. And they cost less. Try us out.
That's good.
I won't let
That's
you
a
down.
nice close. So I've tested 2 optics from Gideon, the mediator that you see on here and the Advocate prismatic. Reliability I can't talk about, although this mediator went with me to a completely rained out class in Florida, and I literally drug it through mud, brushed it off, and finished the class multiple times. No issues with the prismatic either. It worked. Is it the highest quality product ever made? No. Is there anything I would necessarily change other than personal preferences and a dot size? No. For the money, it works really well.
That's all I could ask.
That's it. That's pretty much it. Was really interesting, right? I like doing reviews when I have something absolutely exceptional, so I have a lot to say. And I like doing reviews with something crapped out on me because I also have a lot to say. Mike didn't give me anything to work with. I go, all right, works fine. What the hell am I supposed to do with this?
Right. It works. It does red dot stuff.
Yeah.
The end. Yeah.
But again, if you on the next enclosed red dot, give me a bigger dot, 6 or bigger. So, all right. Thank you all. Thank you for sticking with us. It was a long live stream, just over 2 hours. We ran out of time on locals, but it went on other platforms. If you have any questions that were not addressed, put them in the comments. I'll make sure Mike sees them. And otherwise, next time I'll have something with Mike. Maybe we'll do something quick from SHOT Show.
Yeah, that'd be
Thank
great.
you all.
See you at SHOT.
Thank you all, and have a good night.